Jesse, the chopped cheese at this restaurant.
A good chopped cheese over here.
Holy fucking mother of fuck. It's called Bodega Park. It's in Silver Lake. Jesse, this chopped cheese, it was spiritual. And it was enormous. It was huge. And the bread was like soft on the inside, crispy on the outside. The tomatoes were juicy. They were fresh. The cheese was American cheese the way it fucking should be. It was giving me everything that I needed it to give. And my friend got a bacon, egg, and cheese, and it was like a legit-ass bacon, egg, and cheese. Yeah, Jesse, like a real bacon, egg, and cheese, like not a fake one.
Ooh, don't stop me. I need to get back in my Silver Lake bag because...
Your sober bag?
My Silver Lake bag.
Oh. I'm like, not today, honey.
No, I need a little sip. I've been so good working out, being consistent, eating healthy.
You look good.
When I tell you...
You're glowing.
Thanks. When I tell you, ever since we had those... You gave me them turkey burgers, the vegan burgers.
Yeah, the black bean burgers.
Can I please tell you how I've pretty much eaten them every day now?
No, they're
It's
like my
thing.
favorite thing in the entire world.
It's like the best way to eat carbs and be like, oh.
Yeah.
Because the bread. And I'm like, oh.
Okay, you want to know what else I found out?
But with Gouda cheese. That's been my thing.
Okay, I'll try that. You want to know what else I found out that, like, really brought me joy? Is that you can... Okay, so, like, you know how there's, like, foods that are anti-inflammatory?
Yeah.
I never thought of this. People are going to be like, yeah, duh, you fucking idiot. But I read, like, a nutritionist. There was, like, an article I was reading, and a nutritionist was like, when you have a burger... put avocado on your burger because avocado is very anti-inflammatory, so it will calm down the inflammation from the red meat. So it'll offset it. So I'm like, you can pair anti-inflammatory foods with inflammatory foods and it doesn't count.
Yeah. Wipes it right on.
Right?
Wipes it right on clean. And honestly, avocado been my thing too. Like one day when you come over during the day, we got to go down the street here. It is the cutest general store, like it's a restaurant, but it's themed like an old saloon general store. The food,
You know I love a theme.
the food is like
Amazing.
It's just stuff you never would think. Like it's like apple on like chicken with bacon, and you're like, what is this? On like this French roll, like with I don't even know what kind of cheese, but like it's like weird things that they put together that just.
First off, I'm obsessed. Also, apple and cheese, goated pairing. Yeah. There is a restaurant called Little Pine. Either I think it's in Echo Park, and they have an apple and cheese sandwich. It's owned by Moby, regardless. I want to talk about the restaurant I went to today.
Okay.
Where I got a chopped cheese because it blew my fucking pussy lips back.
Said,
no, it's for real. Bodega Park. Bodega Park in Silver Lake.
All right. Have you ever been to Home?
Oh yeah, I love home.
But they're
home.
They're like a brunch breakfast.
Oh no, I love dinner there. Dinner on the patio there in the summer.
Which one though? Because there's two.
Oh really?
In Silver Lake, there's two. One is visually more aesthetically
so
pleasing.
I've been to the one with the patio.
And it has like the water fountain.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
The other one's cute. One. Yeah. In Los Feliz, like it's basically right down the street from me.
Okay, stunning. Got it.
But super cute.
No, I love home.
Period.
Okay. Yeah, but Bodega Park. Chopped cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese. A real bacon, egg, and cheese. Like an East Coast style bacon, egg, and cheese. And, oh my God, this chocolate latte I got. It was everything.
You know what I've been on recently?
Tell me.
The lavender latte.
Oh, I love like rose, lavender.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's new
I'm
for me.
such an LA girly like that.
That is a very LA thing because I got put onto it out here, but that's my.
I love weird flavors in coffee. I hate weird flavors in ice cream. However, that makes me like irrationally angry.
Interesting, because
everywhere here is like goat cheese and fucking cardamom, and I'm like, I don't. No. I want a chocolate and vanilla swirl with sprinkles.
I found one of the best ice cream spots in LA.
Tell me.
For like not that kind of stuff, because like what's that one, bone straw or whatever?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
They're like, it's
I
like
can't.
bone marrow flavored
No.
ice cream, and you're like,
no,
thanks.
No.
It's like
Not
eyelash and elbow.
This
like
is what I'm
cream
talking
cheese.
about.
You're
What
like,
the fuck is with the flavors here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Give me a fucking chocolate
but
vanilla
Venice
swirl.
Beach, there's this one place, and like their ice cream. When I tell you, when like you see good vanilla ice cream and it's yellow.
Ooh, yeah, because it's got real vanilla bean in it.
Like all of their ice cream, like I would never want to eat a cotton candy ice cream. Like that's just something like maybe the first lick and you're like, okay,
right.
not to eat all. No. But when you look at how good it's made, like it was the top tier. I got black cherry.
Oh, I love tart flavors. I love black raspberry as well.
Yes, I love me a black
with
raspberry
like a chocolate chip in there.
Or salted sea caramel.
Ooh! Love it.
Tell him who gonna stop me. I don't know why that song stuck in my head, but that's my summer song, my summer anthem, y'all. But anyways, welcome to Guns Blazing.
Welcome to Guns Blazing.
We're so bad.
We're so back. We're so bad. At the same time, excuse me. All right, so heavily requested, mostly by me.
No, I've been really excited to talk about this as well.
Scientology, y'all. Like, I feel like it's been a lead up to
For sure.
this because everything we've watched where we started, like, we kept saying, like, wow, this reminds me of, because, again, I never really did a deep dive in Scientology. I have heard about it. I had my experience going into the thing. But then it was watching that guy on TikTok who stands outside
Film
streets
the Police
of,
LA.
Yes, streets of LA.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, that man is such a savage. He was at the Pride Parade and screaming at the mayor of LA.
I'm dead. No, he's iconic. He's been yelling at politicians for a really long time.
Yeah, and like finding where the people from Scientology live, and that's where I started being like, wait, what? Like they have a campsite? Like it's getting crazy. Mm-hmm. So then we started talking about it, and it made me kind of go down the rabbit hole. And the thing with the Leah Remini show is almost like it's so many seasons.
Yeah, I've only watched
because I think it's
the first season
or 3.
I only watched the first season because I already knew a lot about Scientology because I'm a fucking weirdo and I just like to look into things like this, as you know. So I wasn't learning any new information, and it was just a lot of like interviews with people, which was really sad.
Yeah.
So I couldn't continue. But it's a very well done show, and like what she's doing is super important. Yep. But I don't know how many seasons it went on for.
I think it's on 2nd or 3rd. And so for me, it was just like a lot to get into. And not only that, but it's because it's her experience. I liked what I like about Going Clear, which is the documentary we're going to talk about, is it really gives you the interviews from select people, but it really paints the story of how
it gets into the facts about everything, which I've taken notes on all of
psychotic
that.
L. Ron Hubbard
and
is.
We will be giving a debrief so that everyone is on the same page.
Yeah. So I feel like instead of just kind of going through like the documentary, let me set it up by asking you. Let's just start with L. Ron, because honestly, like watching it, but then going back to some of the way you described who he was and what he was, I think like to really get into the documentary, to really kind of just set you guys up with who L. Ron Hubbard is and what Dianetics was.
Yeah.
And then that leads into where this documentary kind of lights it on fire. Let's start with L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay, let me pull up my notes.
This man.
Okay, so let's talk about L. Ron Hubbard. So, a little background. Fun facts about L. Ron Hubbard. He holds the Guinness World Record for a number of books published. He's published over 1,000 books. And he found success writing science fiction. Much of what Scientology was referenced in his science fiction writing. He was in the military. He claimed he'd been blinded and crippled in the war and that Scientology methods cured him. His medical records show he only ever had mild arthritis and conjunctivitis. He was discharged after accidentally bombing a Mexican island. I need to look more into that, to be honest, because that one kind of threw me for a loop. So, oh, do we need to get closer?
I think you're
Sorry.
fine, but
So L. Ron Hubbard moves to LA after being discharged from the military. He links up with this guy, Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons was a well-known scientist. He was actually one of the founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. There is even a crater on the moon named after Jack Parsons. So he was a significant scientist, but he was also a founder of a black magic society known as Oreo Templi Orientis. They follow the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Jack Parsons had a mansion in Pasadena. He would have ceremonies there, blah, blah, blah. So, long story short, L. Ron Hubbard moves to LA after being, like, dishonorably discharged from the military and gets into this group of occultists. So, like, people who are very into black magic, whatever else, into rituals and whatever the fuck. So then he has a falling out with this guy because he runs off with his girlfriend. L. Ron Hubbard runs off with Jack Parsons' girlfriend. Her name was Sarah Northrup, and they actually garnered a lot of information about him in this documentary through her journals. Basically, he said, I wrote a quote from her journals. He said many times that the only way to make any real money was to have a religion. That's essentially what he was trying to do with Dianetics. Get a religion where he could have an income and the government wouldn't take it away from him in the form of taxes. So he writes Dianetics, and I will get into the concept of that in a moment. It's published in 1950 and achieves worldwide global success. The concept of Dianetics is that there are two sides to your mind. So there's the analytical side, which is a perfect computer, never makes a mistake. And then there's the reactive side, where all of your neuroses are stored. And the idea is that all of your neuroses come from engrams. So engrams are like a memory. L. Ron Hubbard says, for example, if you remove the memory of the automobile accident, a person will naturally recover from the accident. Then they have a method called auditing to remove these engrams from your memory. An auditor reads an e-meter. An e-meter is 1/3 of a lie detector, because a lie detector would also measure breathing and pulse. It is 2 cans with electrical wires attached to a meter with a needle. Scientology says that the meter can detect the mass of your thoughts.
Now, this is the same thing, like if you're walking down the Hollywood Boulevard or even in Times Square, you'll see, I mean, I feel like you saw it a lot more early 2000s, which makes sense when we get into some of the celebrities involved. You see them doing these tests out there, and you have to hold those things, and you're like, are you pressing something under this? Like, it's like, whoa, the meter's really? Oh,
Yeah.
Are you okay? And like,
Remember I feel like they used to have those at like...
right outside on Hollywood Boulevard. I know where it was because I worked at Madame Tussauds Wax
you
Museum
did?
in New York, and it used to be right outside of that. And I thought it was so funny when I moved to LA, they were parked right outside of Madame Tussauds here in LA.
That's interesting. They're grabbing tourists.
Yeah.
That's why. That is funny. I feel like they used to have, like, didn't they have machines at, like, the mall, too? Like a stress test or something?
Oh, was that?
I don't know if it was similar, but I remember a thing where you, like, grabbed 2 bars and it, like, read your something.
I remember one where you put your palm on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
But I feel like that was more like, I don't know, maybe that was Dianetics. I don't know. But yeah.
But anyways, so allegedly, according to Scientology, this e-meter can detect the mass of your thoughts. It's like scientifically ridiculous, but you know, to each their own. Basically, the meter can tell if a thought upsets you because it is gauging your bodily reaction. So an auditor will ask questions similar to therapy, and then when they discover a trigger, like, you know, it pops on the meter that you're having some sort of reaction to something, they will have you talk about it. So basically, it's very similar to cognitive behavioral therapy. It's desensitized that you talk about it, and that, you know, helps. The auditor also, this is where it's a little odd. and very different from therapy, takes detailed notes of each session, which are saved and filed, and every auditing room has 2 cameras. And then they keep files on all of their auditing sessions. So isn't that interesting? So yeah, that's the basics.
It's interesting because, let me get something.
Ooh.
2 books that this reminded me of that have changed my life.
I'm excited.
So with the whole auditing portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of like, you're always talking about how like most people are just looking for community.
Yes.
And that's how a lot of people fall into these things.
Yeah.
It's like, also, if you've ever heard, like, the best way to invent a product is to figure out what people need in life and fix that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at, like, watching this, Dianetics, people were drawn to this thing that could help you figure out the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to Synanon.
Oh, completely. There's so many parallels. Yeah.
So watching it, then I'm just like, as someone who is an advocate for therapy, it's just like a lot of this is just people who I would assume don't go to therapy or have never really experienced a good therapist. So you are more prone now to something like this that feels like a quick fix. But it's literally just, if you were to be able to go to a therapist, you would realize, like you said, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
This book changed my life. This is a book that you get if you want to be a therapist or whatever in school. Like, and I don't know how I came across it, but this is my like life Bible. I read this every year. And literally just breaks down why we feel certain ways, really just kind of breaking down emotions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, okay, so why do they have so reading a book like that will already put red flags for any type of these situations for you, right? But then I was like, why do they have the cameras in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was this TV show called Lie to Me. It is amazing. I totally recommend it. And it's based on a true story. It's based on the writer of this book, Pamela Meyer, called Lie Spotting. And basically she created, she didn't work with the FBI, but the FBI ended up working with her because she developed ways to read micro and macro expressions. And there's a whole TV show on it. It's so awesome if you want to like get into understanding people, why people do things and stuff like that. It's very
Law and Order.
Law and Order.
Yeah.
Very similar to that, except like they'll show them in the interrogation room and they'll be like, if the guy cheated on his wife and he lied about it and he did something like this, they'll pause that picture and then they'll show you 3 people in real life, like Bill Clinton or, O.J. Simpson, whoever, who lied about it, and they'll show that same exact thing. So watching that, I'm like, this is what they're doing. They're literally using psychology as a weapon.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to me, reading self-help books and stuff like that. Sometimes it can come across boring. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who like these fantasy stuff, which is also another way I think that was kind of drawing a certain demographic of people that we'll get into later. But the whole thing of like the diagnostic test is literally putting therapy on the streets and grabbing people and using a tool that, because it has been spoken about years before I even knew about Scientology, that machine is like, it's like you could make it at home.
Yeah.
And like
it's literally cans.
No, yeah. And that
like actual cans.
They kind of can control when the meter does whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just recognizing, and maybe you're sitting at home and you're like, that sounds like stupid. I would never sit up. Most people I would pray, aren't. But there are people who are lonely, feel hopeless, or just maybe that going through a bad day, and you sit there and that quick little fix brings you this attraction. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Okay.
This could work. Like, this feels good. Let's try it. Well, also, like how you were saying, basically, like they're using therapy. I think another thing that L. Ron Hubbard realized, especially I think about like back when it started, right, in like the 60s. Or like I think he wrote it in the 50s, yeah. But the religion part of it started in the 60s.
67 or something like that.
Mental health care was so stigmatized, and like having a mental illness was so stigmatized. Like Now it's so normal, right, for people to be like, "Oh, I suffer from anxiety," or I have triggers because of past trauma. Like, but back then it was like very black and white. It was like you're either a complete Looney Tune crazy person or you're normal and there's nothing wrong with you. And now we know, obviously, that the spectrum of human emotion is so much more than that. And so there are interviews in the documentary where L. Ron Hubbard is saying, oh no, we have nothing to do with psychiatry because psychiatry deals with crazy people. Yeah. And he's kind of like chuckling and he's very smug about the whole thing. And the first thing that popped in my head was he's trying to basically give people therapy, administer psychiatric techniques to people that he knows will help them to some degree, but separate themselves from psychiatry.
Right. To make him feel like he has the power, like he is a god.
Yeah. A, to make him feel like he has the power, but B, to also separate themselves from that stigma. Yep. Because people might not want to go to therapy, but if you say, oh, this is just like a self-help group or whatever, you know, we're a religion, like certain people would be more inclined to do that, especially back then.
Yeah. And the fact, yeah, exactly, right? So it wasn't a religion at first.
Yeah.
Right. It was like this like self-help kind of group thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, how do we draw more people? Right. So if Dianetics is the atom, mm-hmm. it's like, well, let's decorate it. Let's call it a religion. Mm-hmm. Right. And now he's created these stories that he used to write, and basically, which is just like, how did no one see this or think this? Like, to think like, well, this man has so many books that this is a crazy human that was like, I'm going to tell people this is real, that there is an alien god out there. And
well, we haven't got to that yet.
Right. No, so then that's one way of painting it, right? So you have the self-help portion, religion, because people are attracted to religion, but then also at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, do I believe in Jesus? Do I not? This seems like a neutral place, science. And then the third thing is celebrity.
Yes.
Feeling like the cool kids. But also the fourth thing, I was like, this low key is like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would love to like look into pyramid schemes and see when those like really
There's a couple documentaries that I've seen that we can watch.
Okay.
There's a documentary about LuLaRoe. That was a pyramid scheme. There's a documentary about this lady with like crazy huge hair. That's about a pyramid scheme. I'll send you some links. Okay, so back to what you were saying about what drew people into Scientology. So, the core belief of Scientology was a civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper. That's problematic in and of itself, but I'll leave that alone. Where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights are the aims of Scientology. That's a quote from L. Ron Hubbard. Yep. Also, another thing is so much of the verbiage they use in Scientology is complete and utter nonsense.
No,
like it's total just like word salad bullshit.
Yeah,
nothing.
That's where it's like maybe for me that's where I just could never connect with even like taking it seriously. Anyway, but listening to this man, I'm like, for how many years? Who was really sitting in front of this man listening to him? Honestly, I go back to the dance people, the TikTok people. I'm like, that guy sounds more like his story. Like, okay, maybe I could believe this a little more than like the religion that he created out of this, because it's also like, who didn't notice that every 10 years it almost changed and became this new.
Well, so I actually wrote down Paul Haggis, who was in there in the documentary. Paul Haggis was a producer for, I think, like $1 Million Baby. Did I write down here? I forget. Oh yeah, $1 Million Baby. He produced and wrote or whatever $1 Million Baby and Crash. So two
great movies.
He's like a really successful Hollywood screenwriter producer. And he said that a big draw in Scientology was celebrities and community. Like, they were in community with cool people. Like, the people that would go to these Scientology events were cool, you know? But then I also I wrote down a quote that they posted a pamphlet of when, basically like the intro pamphlet to Scientology, like what they were using to draw people in. And it said, Scientology then is really about you. It is an exact and workable way for you to recover your natural spiritual power and ability and use these to change the conditions of your life. In Scientology, there is no enforced belief. It is not authoritarian. Rather, it is a maxim in Scientology that only those things which you find true for yourself are true. In that regard, Scientology is a voyage of self-discovery. So how they drew people in is like, and it's interesting because I feel like that's a common thread in everything that we've talked about, is it starts with a good idea.
Yeah.
The root of it is not bad. But then it is a leader in power,
hungry
for power, hungry for money, that just utilizes, like, dangles this carrot over everybody's head over this idea, whether it is a religion, whether it is a group, the dance fucking people, whether it's making money, whether it's Zeus Network, whatever it may be. They dangle this carrot of, oh, it's going to be so great and it's going to be so great. And that's how they abuse you.
Yeah.
That's how they pull the wool over your eyes, is by, look at this distraction.
Yeah,
look at this thing. And that's not reality.
And then by the time you wake up and realize you're in it so deep and you're like, well, damn, how do I get out of this?
Well, that, and also that's such a hard thing, right, with anything, is like unlearning things that have become core beliefs,
and then dealing with shame too, because like a lot of it, even when we saw with like Synanon, and what was, I forget what the other one was, but a lot of these, the TikTok one, you leave it and you wake up and you're like, oh, like that's embarrassing, like I really thought like I was going to be like, you know what I mean? Like saved by whatever, or
it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's humiliating.
Yeah.
Like,
because honestly, like,
to yourself, like that's the thing. It's not about other people.
It's like how could I I look at my ex, like I'm like, how could I like who I was before, like who I am as a person. How did I let somebody in my life do that? And that has nothing to do with anybody else other than yourself, because it's not about what that person did, it's where were you in life. It's you unpacking where were you in life that allowed you to be malleable enough for someone else to grab your hand and walk you down this road and stay down that road for a period of time. Because it's fine, like, you know what I mean, okay, you walk into the Scientology building, you experience maybe you go to one thing or something like that and you're like, yeah, this ain't for me, peace out. But when it's like you're giving them your money consistently and you're trying to get to this tier, and it's
you
like,
believe in it. And exactly, like you compared your relationship, I feel the same about my past relationship. It's like I genuinely believed that I was in a like real relationship with this person, and that person was a sociopath. So
and
we were having very different experiences.
But this man was a sociopath. L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay.
Because
some more tea on him. So
wait, before he did the religion, because the one thing, like, for me that was like, yeah, like the aliens and all that stuff, whatever. But the real life tea, and this was, I feel like, before it became a religion, right? Was when he was married to, and he had a daughter. With
Sarah Northrup, the girlfriend, Jack Parsons' girlfriend that he ran off with, who he was 15 years older than, by the way. Very physically abusive, paranoid, like nuts. Like,
but the conversation where he would call her and say he chopped their daughter's limbs. So she tried to leave him, and she said to him, you need psychiatric help,
because by this point, Scientology had become a religion and people were following.
Oh, so it was after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scientology had become a religion and people were following him. And he became kind of this, like, megalomaniac, like, just a crazy... And he was super paranoid because, you know, he wasn't paying his taxes, which we know now, which can get into that later. But yeah, so... Because he was going so crazy, but he was so successful, she said, you need to get psychiatric help or I'm leaving you and I'm taking our child. And he responded by kidnapping the child, taking the child to Cuba, not even knowing or wanting to care for the child. He put the child in the care of a mentally disabled mother and daughter who kept his child in a cage and then would torture his wife by calling her and saying, I killed the baby, I chopped her up and threw her body in pieces in the ocean. And then he would call back an hour later and say, just kidding, like, she's alive, and tortured her like a complete sociopath. And then finally, like, returned to the U.S. and gave her the kid back because he didn't really want the kid. It was about her and controlling her. But left her penniless. Like,
which Leah Remini and the stuff that I did see that you had said, how she would film an episode, then you see how Scientology attacks you if you speak on them. It's very similar to that.
Yeah.
That kind of like, oh no, we're going to take this to this extent.
Oh yeah, to an extreme.
Yeah.
So actually there is a name for that. In Scientology, they call it, let me find it.
Psychopaths. Like, so any celebrity that is a part of this, like, we cannot support their movies. Like,
yeah,
this is weird, bro. Like, this is very strange. And like,
sorry, I have so many notes.
Never was a Tom Cruise fan. John Travolta gagged me a little bit, but like towards the like 2000s, I started being over him anyways. But like, you just look at these people differently. Like, bro, are you in on it? I hope you're in on it. I hope you know that this is all fake, because like, you look at like a Tom Cruise, you have so much access to so many things. How can you, like, the thing about the daughter, that's not like a fake fact. Like, that's like a known thing. Like, this is your leader. This is who you're like.
And Scientology denies that they were ever even together. Oh. It's like, they have a whole child. Be so fucking serious right now.
I can't.
Hold on, I'm finding it right now. Okay, got it right here. Okay, so it is called...
Also, while she's looking for that, I mentioned this a few weeks back, and you had wanted to know the name of the show. But if you guys want to watch, like, you know, maybe you're not a documentary person, right? So maybe like watching like TV shows and stuff like that. It's more of a I actually don't even want to say it's that exaggerated, but there's a show called The Arrangement. And I told you I think it is legit about Tom Cruise and that Indian girl's relationship.
Oh,
it could be Katie Holmes.
Bonatti.
It could be Katie Holmes, but I think now after watching this, it's that
about
girl.
her.
Yeah,
interesting.
Totally recommend it. It was a gag.
Oh, I'll definitely
watched
it.
all of the series, but
so in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard wrote a policy called fair game.
Yeah. Okay.
We never defend, we always attack was his quote. And that means that they are allowed to, if you are threatening Scientology, they're allowed to do whatever they want to you. And this has been their policy since the infancy of their religion. So L. Ron Hubbard, he decided Scientology was a religion and therefore should be tax exempt. And so he like petitioned to the IRS for it to be tax exempt, and they said no. Yep. And so by the mid-70s, Scientologists were walking into Department of Justice offices and stealing documents. They were breaking into offices, framing people. A reporter for the LA Times dog was poisoned while he was working on a Scientology story. That I thought was really interesting, that they included that in the documentary, because when the Danny Masterson trial was going on, Danny Masterson from that 70s show, who was a very prominent Scientologist his whole life, I think lifelong Scientologist, whole family is in Scientology, had more than one rape victim, and was sentenced to jail. And that rape victim, her boyfriend, who is in a band, I forget what the band is. I think it's the Mars Volta, but I could be wrong. Regardless, he like publicly spoke out against Scientology and Danny Masterson, and they poisoned his dog as well. And this was in the past like 5 years. So this is something that they do. They showed a montage of like a bunch of victims of Scientology, and in some of victims' own words, they had hired private detectives to harass people. One woman said she had been sued by them twice. They had their homes broken into. They were beaten, chased around. Ex-Scientology member said, "We chased her around. We followed her to the airport," admitting to stalking. They got a hold of people's phone records. They wiretapped people's houses, slashed tires, broke car windows. One man said that he was locked in a chicken wire cage. There were stories, dozens of stories, corroborated in sworn court testimony by up to a dozen witnesses. The FBI ended up raiding the church. It was the largest FBI raid in history at that time. And a bunch of them went to jail, including L. Ron Hubbard's wife at the time. She went to prison for 10 years, as well as 10 other people. You know who did not go to prison?
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron motherfucking Hubbard. Because guess who never gets in trouble? They send people to do their bidding.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking pussy ass losers.
Okay, so yes, like this man is like literally the scum of...
Oh my God.
Like, it's just like, it's so unbelievable to me because it's like, again, I'll go with the TikTok guy because this is just the stories, the way this man talked. At least the TikTok guy was like, in theory, lying to them about how to make their parents better and all that kind of stuff, right? And in a sense, creating some sort of community, not writing anything he did, right? But what L. Ron Hubbard did, it's like you just literally created this random piece together Frankenstein-ass religion that just, it's like none of it makes sense. Like if you really sat down and read it, like none of it makes sense. There's not one piece that like, and the thing is you have to continue to pay in order to learn about it. But wait, before I want to say that.
Oh, please, yes.
The positive thing I do want to say though, let's just, you know what I mean, devil's advocate, the IRS thing. Because I think, you know, especially with voting coming up, right, where people feel so, you know, this is the power of numbers, right, where people feel so like, oh, I have to vote this way or vote this way. And there are options for the people to choose not those two things, right? And what I thought was really interesting, I don't want to say cool, even though it low-key was the effort that Scientology put in to becoming tax exempt with the IRS. 2,400 people. Now, just think about this, because there is no law that says we have to pay income tax. So imagine if one day everyone in the United States sued the IRS.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. 2,400 Scientologists sued the IRS. It was so much for the IRS that they ended up becoming tax exempt. And what was the go off was because they were like sneaking. They like, I think they had a couple people like literally working undercover.
So they hired a private investigator who found out where the IRS were going to have like
Christmas party,
like a work party. And they went to that hotel and posed as IRS workers and just hung out and just socialized and chatted with people. And it ended up coming up in conversation that the bar bill was being paid with taxpayers' money. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the bar bill for this party was not a lot of money. And it's nothing.
But it doesn't matter.
But from a PR perspective, it looks really bad. And so Scientology like literally backed the IRS into a corner by bullying them.
No, but I've never heard that part of the story.
Yeah.
And that's obviously something, the IRS don't ever want people really knowing about that.
I know.
Because, again, power of the people. Like, obviously, this is an evil man in an evil situation. But just goes to show that as a country, if we really want to make a change, we can, but we have to stand 10 toes down and move with it, you know? So that was one thing that I looked at and I was like, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Another thing I thought was really interesting, and they said this in the documentary, Lawrence Wright, who wrote the book Going Clear, which is what the documentary is based on, he said, how do you define what a religion is, and why would the IRS be qualified to do that? And it's the truth. How do you define what a religion is? Because, like, is Scientology ridiculous? Yes. But every religion, there's no proof that anything is true of any fucking religion.
but
As far as we all know, it's all literally a bunch of people way back when, because we don't know,
right.
did this exact thing. Joseph Smith wrote the Book of Mormon, and Mormonism is recognized as a real fucking religion. And Joseph Smith literally claimed that he woke up one day, walked to the middle of the forest, saw fucking scrolls or whatever, and that was the Book of Mormon. And this was like in the fucking like 1800s or like early 1900s.
No, and that's my thing with these. It's like they are easily proven. Like it's like, you know, older religions and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we weren't around. We can't trace things back. L. Ron Hubbard. You can watch
it's traceable.
this documentary and be like,
oh,
is everyone okay?
No,
John Travolta, are you okay?
No, he's not okay. Well, let's get into John Travolta. Okay, well, let's get into...
Wait, before we do that, let's talk about the tears.
Okay, yes. So...
Because the celebrity thing is just its
John
own...
Travolta. L. Ron Hubbard writes Dianetics. So he writes this, like, self-help book, basically, with these, like, principles and whatever. But it's not really into the, like, kooky Scientology stuff. Dianetics is really just self-help stuff. Yeah. And so people get very into Dianetics, and they're auditing and all that stuff. But then it's a fad, like most self-help things, and it kind of goes kaput. So his wife divorces, or he divorces his wife, takes all the money or whatever, but then he runs out of money because Dianetics stops making money. So that's when he pivots to a religion. When he pivots to a religion,
isn't that when he started writing more science fiction? He started leaning more towards science fiction and working in Hollywood. Wasn't that at the time he started doing like movies and...
That I don't know. I don't.
Because there was a portion where it was like he was like on set, and then that's to me where then as the religion started, he started kind of tapping into the celebrity factor and had it felt like that's where he gained access. And
well,
we can't even tell you what Scientology really is because again, you have to continuously pay.
Yes. So
$500.
Basically, yeah. So basically, he realizes, because he made all this money off Dianetics, so he realizes that, like, people will pay money for courses. Like, that is the thing people will pay money for. So he turns it into a religion with the goal of making this tax exempt.
And
that's his goal.
The tagline was, "Give us your money, and we will make anything happen."
Period.
I'm going to put that in my Instagram profile. Like,
give us your money. We went, hey, honestly, T. So,
it's going to be my next TikTok live.
So then he creates this thing. Because he starts expanding on Dianetics and basically it turns it into what became Scientology. So he creates what's called the bridge. And you're supposed to, which this also doesn't fucking make sense. Because people are like, it's a metaphor. You work your way up the bridge. Hey, dumbasses, a bridge goes
horizontal.
across. But I digress. So the bridge is your awareness scale. Yeah. So basically, you're supposed to operate better as you move up the bridge.
Because the information...
It's the same thing as, like, therapy. Or, like, taking a fucking college course. Yeah, you're going to be more knowledgeable at the end than when you walked in. So that's a stupid fucking concept that we've heard 8 million times. Same thing with therapy. Yeah, the longer you go to therapy, the better you're going to be. Congratulations, L. Ron Hubbard.
But it's almost like his excuse for it was, we can't just give this out because if people knew this, it would if people knew the truth, it's just too crazy
just too much
to understand.
But that's also it's like a bait and switch because he brings it in as self-help. Then you're paying for these courses. Keep going. You're going to get better and better and better. do auditing and da. And then eventually you work your way up the bridge to OT3. And this is after you've spent, because the courses to learn these things, to learn about the religion cost money, thousands of dollars. Yeah. And while you're doing that, you have to get audited. One of the things that they really stressed in this documentary is how aggressively they hound people for money. One guy said they literally talked me out of $250,000. Like, they're so good at it, they don't leave you alone. And they said that them becoming tax exempt made that even worse. Made them even more like, well, now your donations are tax exempt, so it all goes to us. Like, you can donate as much as all of your fucking money to us, which, as we know, that is a common thing. But basically, OT3, as you work your way up in courses and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and all of your time, and at this point, they probably cut off all your friends, told them all they're all suppressive people or whatever the fuck. You are presented with the, quote, secret materials. Are you ready for this? Leah Remini also talked about this in her show, and the way because she got to OT3, of course, and she's like, that's when I was kind of like, all right.
It's like, imagine listening to Gargamel from Smurfs.
No, literally.
Like,
okay,
your
so
leader
guys,
is Gargamel.
The secret materials in Scientology. This is real. This is not fake. This is literally what.
Well, it is fake, but.
Well, it is, but. Imagine you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this religion and you like firmly believe that like every level is going to like bring you closer to enlightenment. And then you get to like one of the highest levels. And this is what the fuck they give you a book or whatever the fuck it documents that tell you this. And I've tried to like make it simple. 75 million years ago, people lived in a world similar to 1950s USA. They elected, according to a recording of L. Ron Hubbard, which this also made no sense to me. They elected somebody who was a supreme ruler named Xenu. Mm-hmm. He was a tyrannical overlord. I don't know how they elect. I mean, yeah, I guess that can happen. From the Galactic Confederacy.
This is like South Park.
This is real.
Adult Swim.
Well, South Park did an episode on Scientology where they animated all of this. And they said at the bottom, flashing on the bottom of the screen, it said, this is what Scientologists actually believe. And then the guy who was the voice of Chef on South Park, his name is Isaac Hayes. He was like a famous like singer. He was a Scientologist and he fucking quit the show. That's why Chef was no longer on the show.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
I'm
watching it tonight.
It's a really good episode. Oh. It's so funny. Okay, so let me take a little sip of my water. Okay. So we've got a tyrannical overlord from the Galactic Confederacy named Xenu. This was 75 million years ago, by the way.
But the 1950s.
But it was like the 1950s USA.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? What was 1950s? Like Bewitched?
Period. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. They were like driving cars. Yeah. They had.
But there was an overlord.
Yeah, they were taking Quaaludes. It was a whole thing. Okay, so in order to deal with overpopulation, Xenu started calling people in for tax audits indiscriminately, and then he would have them frozen with injections of glycol to their hearts.
Oh my God, Ozempic.
Then he threw them in boxes and transported those boxes using space planes. They were then flown to the prison planet Tegiak, now known as planet Earth.
We're in prison right now, guys.
And they were dropped into volcanoes.
Oh, yeah.
Here on Tegiak, now Earth. I hope everyone is following me. Then they set off hydrogen bombs on top of the volcanoes. And these people's disembodied spirits, known as thetans, flew out of the volcanoes. And those spirits were captured and forced to sit in front of movie screens a la Clockwork Orange that showed our society, including like Jesus crucifixion and just like everything about our society, like basically programmed everything. Yeah, it's all in there. So by the theory, so Scientology says, I don't even know, that when a child is born, present day, a thetan, so one of those like volcano fucking hydrogen bomb souls
75
from 75 million years ago.
But the 1950s.
The 1950s. A thetan or multiple thetans. You can have like 1,000 thetans in you. Like there's no limit.
Okay, so like Nicki Minaj probably has like a bunch of
Yeah,
them, like, all her
exactly.
personalities,
Roman
right?
is
Yeah,
a thetan.
Roman.
Sleaze Mirage. When a child is born, a thetan jumps inside the child. More than one thetan can attach to the body, and you can only expel these thetans through auditing.
Oh.
And then once you erase all of your traumatic memories from this life and all of your past lives, then you are clear.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So go, hey, any tourist location, go find you an audit, and you will get rid of your thetans.
So these are like the real core beliefs of Scientology.
What I think is interesting, so that's OT3, right?
That's OT3. So that's not even the highest level.
No, but I want to go to that other actor, Jason Baig.
King.
Love him. Like, he's fine as hell, but like I used to love his movies.
He is fine.
He is fine. 13 years he was in Scientology. What I thought was so interesting was that he was basically saying, like, he was there for 4 months and in 4 months' time, he did more than John Travolta had done, and John had been in it for however many years at that point. So they choose, no matter how much money you're giving.
Right.
It's not even about, like, you can pay your way in, like, time to get to this level.
No.
It's like, well, you haven't crossed the bridge yet.
Completely. It's totally like indiscriminately. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I talked about the girl I knew that was a Scientologist.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep I went into that.
You said that she, like, basically, like, brought you to a dentist.
Okay, so basically I work with this girl. I'll try to keep it short and sweet because we still have more to unpack there because we haven't even gotten into David Miscavige yet.
No. And we got to get into Spanky and John Travolta.
Spanky, John Travolta, David Miscavige, we're going to get into all of it. This might be a long episode. So I was friends with this girl. We worked together for like years at like multiple places. We were friends. We hung out pretty frequently. Obviously, we hung out at work every day. And then we would hang out outside of work, whatever. And we got super close. And basically, long story long, she starts dating this guy. And, you know, we were sitting at lunch at work, me, her, and another one of our friends. And we're creeping on his Instagram, as you do with, you know, a guy your friend is dating or talking to. And so we're creeping on the Instagram. And I'm going through, I'm like, let me see them again. I'm looking through the pictures. Everything's Scientology. I filmed this with Scientology TV today. I did this with Scientology. I said, oh, you can't date this man. This man's undateable, babe. Why? Because he's a Scientologist. Well, is that bad? I'm like, do you not know anything about Scientology? So she basically tells me, looks me dead in the face and says that she knows nothing about Scientology. But now my alarm bells are ringing because I know that her sister was Leah Remini's assistant for years. Because one of the first times this girl came over to my house, I had the show on, and she was like, oh, can you turn it off? Like, I don't like her. And I was like, oh, why? She's like, my sister was her assistant for years, and it was a bad...
You had the Scientology show on, or...
Yeah, the Leah Remini Scientology show. And I was like, is your sister a Scientologist? And she goes, no. Like, says, oh, no, like, she's not. She was just her assistant. I'm like, that's weird. Because from what I know about it...
Everybody's going to be attached.
But I didn't press, you know, whatever. So, long story long, I give her a hard time about this guy, and she gets weird to me. Like, really pulls away, gets very weird. Like, the whole thing's super weird. And then she starts posting all this stuff on social media about a charity called CRH, which is the Citizens Human Rights Commission. CCRH? Citizens Commission for Human Rights. Okay. You know, their jargon, their ridiculous jargon they use. Citizens Commission for Human Rights is Scientology. It's their charity that's like, you know, whatever the fuck that is. And they own the museum. I think it's on Sunset Boulevard, Psychiatry Industry of Death.
Oh, yeah.
That's them. So my friend is talking to this guy who's a Scientologist. I'm aware of that. Then she starts posting all this weird stuff on social media about this charity, Citizens Commission for Human Rights. So I Google it, and I realized it's Scientology, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So then I noticed that her sister commented on that post. I went down a rabbit hole. People in her family were in it. She was in it. She had been in it for years. And did not even, I was friends with this girl for years. I worked with her every day. We hung out outside of work.
This was after BGC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Met her family members. Even, I spent a whole day, I'm like trying not to get too personal, but I spent a whole day, she was not there with her family members, not knowing that they were all Scientologists.
But that's the thing, you don't know, like.
So I found this so bizarre. And I have another friend who's an ex-Scientologist, and she actually went to Delphi Academy, which is the Scientology elementary school. And she got out when she was young. But so I was talking to her about this, and I was like, it's so bizarre that these people are in a religion that they don't talk about. Because normally, even people who are in a cult, it's all they talk about.
Yeah. And then they're constantly, like, questioning the people that aren't. Like, it's almost like Jehovah's Witness. Like, I'm going to try and see if you're into it.
Completely. So I was like, that is so bizarre to me that, like, I'm friends with this person, not for, like, a couple months, years. And not one, like, obviously there was the red flag with the show and whatever, piecing it back, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But, like, really was not giving Scientology. Like, was not giving that. And so I found that so weird. But my friend who was in it, and when she was a child, explained to me that you are not allowed to talk about it at all until you've, like, moved a certain level up the ranks. Now, how bizarre is that? That you're a part of a religion that is telling you, okay, so we can't tell you everything about it unless you pay a certain amount, A. And B, or an indentured servant in the Sea Org, which we'll talk about that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other option. It's either pay money or indentured servitude.
Which you can go see the Sea Org people, but working in the streets in Hollywood.
I used to live right near.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Their housing?
Well, I lived right by the Celebrity Center.
Okay.
And I don't know that they live there.
No, they live at the one that I
Hollywood
told you.
Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in that back street.
Got it. I don't know that they live there, but they're there every day at the Celebrity Center.
Okay.
Doing work there, I'm assuming. Cleaning, scrubbing floors with toothbrushes and shit. But so I just found it so bizarre that, like, you can't even talk about your own religion. And also, I had said to her when she was like, oh, I'm dating this guy in Scientology, she said, go home and watch Going Clear. I told her this. This was however many years ago. I said, go home and watch Going Clear. Just go home and watch it. And me and my friend were both like, girl, you need to. And she's like, oh, whatever. And then I asked her, and now I know why she didn't, but I asked her, oh, did you watch it? No, I don't want to. She's not, they're not allowed to. They're literally not allowed to.
It was similar to, what was the TikTok one? Like, I guarantee they didn't watch that documentary, or they're not allowed to.
No,
yeah.
They're not allowed to. And also, I found out that in Scientology, if you say, like, were to watch, like, a Going Clear documentary or a Leah Remini show or read a bad article about Scientology, and then you would have to talk about that in your auditing session. You would have to. And that, which we can talk about this now. So in your auditing sessions, we've talked about they record everything, which is so unethical, obviously. They record everything. They write everything down. They have files on you of all your deepest, darkest secrets. So unethical.
And none of these people have any sort of medical, like, or
Yeah.
did not go to school for psychology or.
No, not at all. So not only is there that. Fuck, I've lost it. Oh, I remember.
Auditing.
So
What
not
happens in
only
auditing.
is they're recording everything and they're keeping files on you and all of that, but then they also have this thing called an ethics department. Ethics is like a big part of their jargon. So basically anything revealed in an auditing session that could be considered harmful to the church goes immediately to an ethics department. On top of that, I forget what it's called because they didn't talk about it in Going Clear, but Leah Remini talked about it a lot in her show. Mm-hmm. They have another policy where basically if you, as a Scientologist, know that another Scientologist is doing something bad like something that could be damaging to the church in some way, and you don't report that, then you get in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're a part of it, bro.
You're a part of the problem. So if we want to get into John Travolta.
Well, that's the perfect. Yeah, that is the perfect place because
Yeah.
Spanky was like, I don't get when he knew what happened.
Yes.
To me.
So Spanky Taylor.
Yep.
Was the PR for the church for many years, and so she dealt with a lot of the celebrities. She developed a very close relationship with John Travolta. So at some point, Spanky gets in trouble, basically. Her boss was denied medical treatment by the church, which another big thing in Scientology, like they don't believe in any psychiatric medication. And obviously, as we've talked about, L. Ron Hubbard believes that you can cure things by removing the memory completely. So they have some very like mixed things with medical stuff. So they denied her boss medical care. Spanky protested to that and therefore was sent to a prison camp. That's what they described. They literally described it as a prison camp. And the prison camp, which is actually inside of the blue building on Sunset, which I thought was so crazy. Did you peep that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the prison camp is on the 7th floor of the blue building on Sunset
this is
Boulevard.
Happening right in front of our faces.
The big blue building on Sunset Boulevard across from Kaiser Permanente.
Yeah, I know exactly which one.
Yeah,
like the big parking
lot. It's one of their headquarters. It's called the Pacific Area Command Base. And on the 7th floor of that building, I'm sure it's gone now because there's been documented accounts of this, was or is a prison camp known as RPF, which stands for the Rehabilitation Project Force, created by L. Ron Hubbard. It's to re-indoctrinate members. So it's for members that get out of line, if you will. They get sent to a prison camp. So this woman who did PR for the church for years gets sent there after objecting to her boss being denied medical treatment. She said that there were about 200 people there, that they were in prison camp, and that all of the high-level executives of the church were very present. So she wanted to make it clear, high-ranking members of this church are aware of this going on. She said that they worked 30 hours on, 3 hours off. She said there were times where they were not allowed to sleep. It was hard labor. They were fed scraps. She was pregnant, which was, I don't know about now, but at the time was not encouraged in Scientology.
Yeah,
they saw it as a deterrent and a distraction from you making the world a better place. And Spanky had a 10-month-old baby at the time, and the baby was put in the cadet org. The cadet org was basically a prison camp for children.
Yeah, it was like children are a financial burden or something like that. I'm like, you're a financial burden. Like,
no, literally. In Spanky's time, they removed all children of Sea Org members and sent them to be raised in Cadet Org because the idea was to remove distractions from the greater purpose. And many Sea Org members were pressured intensely to have abortions. Spanky ends up getting pregnant in the prison camp and ended up escaping in 1987 because she went to go see her daughter in the cadet org and witnessed her daughter being horrifically neglected. She was covered in fruit flies. She had a urine-soaked diaper. She was dirty. She said that there was so much mucus in her eyes that her eyes were closed shut. And this was like a 1-year-old baby. So that was enough for her to be like, I'm fucking out of here.
No, but before
before she left,
they had a task for her. Like, they almost were like,
Yes.
good girl, good job.
So while she was in prison
Set
camp.
up the Saturday Night Fever event.
Yes. So while she was in the prison camp, they asked her to set up a screening of Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta. John Travolta and her hadn't talked in months because she had been sent to this prison camp, and they said, you can't talk to anyone. We're just sending you there. And so it was like this awkward thing. But she gets him to come, and they said, you'll have dinner with...
his thing was, I'll only come as long as I get to see her.
Yes.
And that's why they used her, I think, specifically.
Yes.
Because they knew that.
And then what they did is that they said that she would be able to have dinner with him after, and then they canceled it and said she couldn't go. But then they did end up seeing each other after the event, and she told him what was going on. She said there's a prison camp. She went through the rundown of all the terrible things happening. And so weird, she said that he was like mad at her for allowing herself to be degraded to that degree. And then she said, but he knew all this and it wasn't enough for him to leave the religion. Now, this is a good place to segue into what was going on of why he did not leave and why he's still there.
So with that baby, so then day they allowed her to be with the kid and she was with a watcher because you basically get assigned somebody to kind of look over you. And I forget where they allowed them to go that day. But
the baby was sick. So she said, my sister's going to pick me up. We got approved to take the baby to a doctor's appointment, which wasn't true. And then she
put the baby in the sister's car, and the sister just knew exactly what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And she took that baby.
She took the fuck off, and good for her. So to segue into why John Travolta, it wasn't enough for John Travolta to leave their religion. Well, as we talked about fair game, basically, long story long, they, as we know, recorded all these auditing sessions. Marty Rathbun, who was David Miscavige's assistant, I believe, for many years.
Because John was in it before Tom, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because John Travolta's been in it since the 70s. Tom Cruise didn't get heavily involved until the 90s.
Yeah, because I read that there is low-key actually a jealousy beef. I read this old article. It was like in 2003 that in 2000 a ex-Scientologist came out and was like, John does not like Tom because Tom is always praised by, what's his name?
David Miscavige. David Miscavige, I think, has a hard-on for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's a little frightening.
And that really upsets John, and that's where him and Tom stopped kind of doing interviews and all that kind of stuff together.
Marty Rathbun was Miscavige's top lieutenant, my bad. So he described another interesting thing about Marty Rathbun. So Marty Rathbun was in this documentary, and he had a blog basically exposing Scientology. In the documentary, in Going Clear, they show footage of Scientology harassing Marty Rathbun and his wife to the point that they moved in from the house across the street from them. And now Marty Rathbun is back a Scientologist again.
Because he's the one that did the thing with Leah, right?
He was like on an episode, I think. Maybe
that she
not.
Went to Miami.
You know what?
And then
maybe
he went back to.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah. He's back in the church. But I know that him and his wife were suing the church, and that a settlement was made. So part of me thinks maybe they were like, we'll stop harassing you. I mean, he has a wife and a kid, who knows. But regardless, that's a whole fucked up situation. But anyway, so Marty Rathbun described an incident or an instance where they were going to audit John Travolta. They were somewhere, they were in Florida or something, I think. So they were, traveling. But so they were setting up an auditing room, and every auditing room has 2 cameras in it. And he went in and he said, oh, I won't be recorded. And David Miscavige said, okay, no worries. We'll take the cameras out and put hidden cameras in the room. He's a nasty little fucker. So there was rumors that Travolta did try to leave the church, and that they gave a black PR package,
Well, yeah, because imagine, I mean, there's been rumors that John is gay, and, who knows what else, but...
What's sad is that I think anything that he said in those sessions...
And you almost think, did John Travolta's whole career come from being a Scientologist? Give us your money.
Well, I think he feels that way. And I don't think that that's the truth, but I think that he probably psychologically feels like because his career took off after joining Scientology. Whereas with Tom Cruise, it's a little different. So with Tom Cruise...
he already had a buzz.
And what's interesting about Tom Cruise is that when he hooked up with Nicole Kidman, he actually backed away from the church because she did not fuck with the church. She was like not having it.
Which is funny because Reese Witherspoon and her just did a sit down, and she was like,
Yeah.
I just want you to write a book. And she's like, it'll never happen.
Yeah. Maybe when she's older.
I just think she knows too much. And I think she just wipes her hands clean from that whole time. Yeah, because the Eyes Wide Shut thing happened. And that was during the time where he kind of wasn't into the church, and they felt that that was kind of a jab. I don't know if I saw this in Going Clear or something else, but because she just did that interview. And it was something about that Eyes Wide Shut. They did not like that he did that.
So basically, Tom Cruise was in Scientology. And then he meets Nicole Kidman on set, and he falls madly in love with her. And they don't like Nicole Kidman because Nicole Kidman's dad is a famous psychiatrist in Australia. So from the jump, they're like not feeling it. They labeled her a PTS. I also love all the like
abbreviations.
Like that makes it like sound fancy or something. Potential trouble source. They also labeled her a suppressive person, which the Scientology girl that I was friends with that I stopped being friends with because I found out she was lying about being a Scientologist told our other mutual friend after we stopped being friends. I talked to like my auditor and they said Julie's a suppressive person. Sure am, bitch. Anyways, so basically Nicole Kidman is getting the ick because Tom Cruise is acting like David Miscavige. David Miscavige is like so fucking obsessed with him and weird and like trying to be like him. So she's like, it's giving me the ick. I don't like David. Like, please stop hanging out with this weirdo. Like, I don't like it. So she gets him to drift away from the church for quite a long time. I didn't realize this. He was very inactive from 1992 to 2001.
Interesting.
He was still active, but like lightweight. Like he wasn't super into it. So around 2000.
Yeah, which would make sense with the article I read about John Travolta and him. Ooh. Because that means if Tom came back in and it's like now he's the golden boy, it's like, well, I've been here this whole time.
Yeah, facts.
Because when you watch old footage of Scientology stuff, John was the voice of Scientology. If
for
it was
many
a birthday,
years. Well, I also think John's star kind of dwindled and as Tom Cruise was rising.
Yeah, that's
although Scientology, I think Scientology has been way more of a detriment to these people's careers at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, other than Mission
especially
Impossible.
in recent years. So he was inactive from 1992 to 2001. He was like still in it, but not really. Around 2000, he leaves the country to go film Eyes Wide Shut with Nicole Kidman and basically like drops off the face of the earth and isn't talking to David Miscavige. And David Miscavige goes crazy. He goes feral, insane, is losing his mind. So Marty Rathbun was assigned to get him back in and to facilitate, this is in Marty Rathbun's own words, facilitate a breakup with Nicole Kidman. Miscavige was so obsessed with Tom Cruise that he would get daily reports on Tom Cruise's auditing sessions, and every night he would sit with his assistant Tom DeVocht and literally drink a glass of scotch and like read Tom Cruise's basically therapy fucking transcript. Sicko weirdo.
Yeah, it's giving.
They hire investigators.
So obsessed with me.
That period. They hire investigators. We also haven't gotten into David Miscavige yet, which I'll touch upon that after the Tom Cruise thing because that's important. They hire investigators to investigate Nicole Kidman because Tom Cruise asks to wiretap her home. This motherfucker asked to wiretap her home. They're married and they have kids. He asked to wiretap her home. Freakazoid. Basically, the relationship dissolves. I'm assuming they heard something on the wiretap they didn't like. They didn't really like specify that, but it was kind of implied. They succeed at breaking them up, and the church then turns to the children and is like, we're going to turn them against their mother, make sure the custody goes to Tom. And I just thought it was really interesting, the side-by-side world. And that's another thing that we've seen as a pattern in all of these high control groups that we've talked about is that different people are treated very differently. You see someone like Tom Cruise who he knows that Sea Org members are not getting paid, and he doesn't care that they're scrubbing floors on this yacht for his birthday, or that they're, they told this story about how he wanted to run through a meadow with Nicole Kidman, and they had these people up like all hours, like the ass crack of dawn until nighttime, tilling the soil for a fucking meadow for Tom Cruise to run through. And he knows this and doesn't give a shit. Like,
which is crazy because I saw him. I went to 106 in Park back in the day, and he like randomly was there. And I remember him coming out. And again, I've never been a Tom Cruise person, but this moment, before I knew any of this stuff, I was like, wow, I have so much respect for him. Like, he came out of 106 in Park, and, when you come out of, like, radio stations or, like, Broadway stuff, everyone's out there waiting.
Yeah.
It was probably about 60-something people there. And I think he was with Katie Holmes at the time, possibly. It was, I think it was, like, 2006. And I remember he came out. When I tell you, this man, Tom Cruise, right? At that time, huge. I didn't see any bodyguards, nothing like PR people, but like this man sat outside, took pictures with all
every
60
single
people.
person. Yeah.
So, hey, like I felt like, wow, this fucking
people
guy.
who work with him say he's incredible.
Yeah,
like
I
people who
mean-
work with him say he's like amazing. He's super professional. He's really down to earth.
It seemed like I felt like my dad, like it gave me like, my dad will talk to anybody, you know what I mean? And here's this guy just signing everything and anything,
But here's the thing,
and
is,
then knowing that,
yeah. But here's
is
the thing
just-
is like maybe, but this is the thing, right? Is like I have been very guilty of like very black and white thinking my whole life. Like it's very easy for me to lump people into one kind of like people are either good or they're bad. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more I'm understanding nuance. My whole thing is just like how I feel about the girls at Zeus Network. And how I feel like maybe I don't agree with all their behavior, but I still see them all as victims. I feel that way about everybody in Scientology too. Like not that makes things that Tom Cruise has done better. However, I feel like he genuinely believes that
in the overboard.
yes, and I think that he genuinely believes that everything that he is doing in the name of Scientology, whatever it may be, is for the greater good.
And
Like,
maybe that the people tilling the soil, it's like, well, that's their job.
no,
They're
exactly,
working
like
to get to where I am.
because it's for the greater good. Like, and I know that sounds crazy and ridiculous and stupid, and like maybe from an outside perspective it is, but when that is your whole world, like people will have believed crazier shit.
No, I mean, I've hung out with certain celebrities and like, so in my mindset where, okay, here's where I can devil's advocate with what you're saying. Like seeing him at 106 in Park, smiling and just giving
Yeah.
so much love, attention to all these people. In his mind though, genuinely, I feel he looks at those people like they are so below him.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
he has to
does.
sign for them. Where he probably has a little more respect for the Sea Org people, like in his mind.
Completely.
This is because they're doing the work. And certain people in the industry that I have known call the people that were outside of 106 in Park civilians. They're civilians.
Civilians, yeah.
We gotta, hey,
Yeah,
you know, you just,
yeah.
hey. Where it's like, no, you're doing good, and you're doing good. You're working hard. It's like trying getting paid. You know, you're doing the good
Yeah.
thing. You're on the path. They're these poor people, like
These
so-
fucking losers.
Yeah, I could see that kind of energy. Like, yeah, of course you're tilling the soil. You're gonna be with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
overlord.
Right.
Your soul won't
It's
get
for
thrown
the
into
greater good.
to the
It's for the
volcano.
greater good of the ethics. Okay, so Dave is Miscavige. So,
He's basically in charge now.
yes.
Yeah.
Also, they did not really get into Katie Holmes in Going
No.
Clear, which I thought was interesting. So,
I also feel like whatever
I
happened
know-
with Katie Holmes, she got very protected after the fact.
well,
Like left alone almost.
they were stalking her.
No, I know it got bad for a little bit. But
So I
then-
wonder, yeah, something happened. But basically, like, the gist of the tea that I've heard about that is she basically figured out it was a cult. She was like, I'm sure because I'm sure at the beginning she was like, yeah, whatever. And then as it became, like, more and more serious, it's probably like, fuck this shit. Also, fun fact. So I don't know if do you know why Leah Remini got expelled from Scientology? Do you know this story? Mm-mm. Okay, so Leah Remini got expelled.
Wait, was it the J-Lo thing?
No.
Okay.
They were mad at her because she couldn't get J-Lo or Kevin James. Yeah. So Leah Remini, what ultimately led to her being like, I don't know if she like left or it pushed out or whatever. I don't exactly remember the details of it. But the reason why she fell out of favor with Scientology is because David Miscavige's wife, Shelley Miscavige, has not been seen since like, I think like 2000.
Oh, and she questioned it.
2006
at a wedding or something.
So at Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise's wedding, Shelley Miscavige had been MIA for like a while at that point. And Leah's at the wedding looking around like, this is the biggest Scientology event. You know what I mean? And it's Tom Cruise, and David Miscavige is obsessed with Tom Cruise. Like, why wouldn't his wife be there? And she asked about her and got like written up, and it was this whole fucking thing. And so,
because is her family still involved? Or her family? Because that's how
I know Leah Remini's mother is not.
Okay.
She left. I don't know about the rest of the family. But yeah, even just questioning will get you written up, which is completely insane. Okay, so David Miscavige. Let's get into this fucking loser. So David Miscavige joins the church at 11 with his parents. From what I've gathered, he was a like total kiss ass teacher's pet, fucking
which
overachiever.
Again, you kind of feel, not to say feel bad, but it's like 11 years old.
No,
You've
baby.
been brainwashed.
No, completely,
since you were a
baby.
child.
So L. Ron Hubbard takes a liking to him. He becomes a sort of general contractor for the church and was soon named Action Chief. I love the fucking stupid names these people come up with. Action Chief. The man who did whatever needed doing, they describe that as. For a church that had developed a scary reputation for attacking its critics, as we talked about with Fair Game. And so after... Sorry, I'm going through
Also,
some
side
other
note,
stuff.
if you look at a lot of the people, like leaders, and this is me because I love my conspiracy theories, all of them look like they could rip their faces off and be something else underneath. Like, if you look at David Miscavige, it looks like you could literally underneath his...
He's literally one of the scariest people I've ever seen.
And pull a mask off, and it's like, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah. So, basically, David Miscavige, like, weasels his way into the church, like, top rankings, like, by kissing L. Ron Hubbard's ass and just, like, you know, doing whatever. And I guess, like, people describe him as being super scary. Like, everybody was afraid of him. And then L. Ron Hubbard dies, which they didn't describe it as dying. They said he, like, discarded his earthly vessel because his soul moved on to somewhere. I don't know.
Because isn't the whole thing that someone's coming back? Is it the Overlord or is it L. Ron?
Probably L. Ron. I think...
There is like this like thing that there will be a time when I can't remember. It's one of them. It's either the Overlord's coming, like almost like how they say Jesus is coming back. I can't even
keep up.
It's like there's this whole thing that all basically like you want to be in Scientology because when it happens, you want to.
Dear Lord. So David Miscavige takes over the church after L. Ron Hubbard dies, and then they have over $1 billion tax bill, which we talked about. So then basically David Miscavige orders 2,400 people to file lawsuits against individual IRS members. They were also, in addition to the lawsuits, they were harassing individual IRS members, like hiring private investigators.
Not mad at it. I wish we would do that as people, personally. So not mad at this portion of the story.
Hiring private investigators to dig up like incriminating info, blackmail, And you want to know what, too, I thought was interesting? Because when I first watched this documentary, I was like, oh, wow, Scientology, like, made an enemy of the IRS, like, you know? But what's interesting is, even though they did that, there was a bunch of IRS members at the celebration when they finally
well, because
became
it's like,
tax
hey,
exempt.
if we're all going to be tax exempt and fraud.
So
let's hop into bed together.
Yeah, exactly. So David Miscavige, he takes over. He's obsessed with Tom Cruise. That's one weird thing. Like, very obsessed with the celebrity aspect of the church. Very, especially after they became tax exempt, became extremely obsessed with people like donating, like hounding people for donations. Another thing is that the church's membership is getting lower and lower every year, but their revenue is getting higher and higher every year. A big part of that is that they invest all their money in real estate. Another big part of that is how much they're hounding people for money.
Yeah, because I was walking down the street and there is a science religious.
Oh, is it Christian Science Reading Room?
Yeah.
That's not Scientology.
Oh, okay.
Christian Science Reading Room is a whole different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a cult. That's a different, yeah. Okay. No. Not sinister. Weird name, but not affiliated. Okay. I know, the PR. Scientology really fucked them.
No, I'm like...
So, David Miscavige, after becoming leader, which I thought this was really interesting too, because L. Ron Hubbard's ex-wife described him, when Scientology became successful, which was this like dream that he had, he became extremely paranoid, like a paranoid lunatic person. And that is a common theme.
Yeah, with all these leaders.
With all these leaders, it's like they know that what they're doing is unethical. And so they know that the chickens are going to come home to roost. And it's like,
because all I'm going to say is... Our little lemon pepper. We not the only ones that got our eyes on you. Rumor has it.
Rumor has it.
And it's the call's coming from inside the house.
The call is coming from inside that house, honey. And listen, here's the thing is like, you can be a shitty person. But one thing I know is like, people talk about karma all the time, right? It's like, oh, karma. And it's like, I do believe that when you're like a really bad person, like Lemmy Palmer, eventually like something like you're going to go down in one way or another.
Sometimes the people closest to you.
So, like the thing is, I feel like a part of the karma is living with that paranoia. Like the karma is the day-to-day, like, existence of like knowing that people are fucking coming for you.
And that's why you almost go like, I hate to say it too, like, just not gonna keep going in on lemon pepper, but like Ray J right now, I think we're seeing the downfall of Ray J. I think he is done so much behind the scenes in life that you're seeing a breakdown of a man living with paranoia. So it's almost like you flash everything else. Yachts, glasses, I have all this fucking stuff. And it's like, come the fuck down. Like, live a normal life. Like,
the energy is very like
chaotic
and like very paranoid, like very paranoid energy. Like you can feel it on somebody, you know? And so I do find solace in that, in knowing that like, and I get that like
you're not sleeping good at night, but then we'll be like, I'm on a jet, and it's sleeping like, great, and it's like,
so
you're not.
Even people that are like quote unquote sociopathic, it's like, do they like feel sorry necessarily? No, but they still have that paranoia of like, somebody's gonna fucking come for me, because they know what they're doing is fucked up. You know,
like what's that other one, the Army Hammer documentary, The Grandfather.
Oh yeah.
Where at the very end,
he was losing
like,
his cool.
Jesus Christ, I pray to you.
That,
like,
yeah.
Well, oh my God, what happened to Satan?
It's funny. It's just like, it's so funny how human beings are just funny. Yeah. It's like the same things just play out over and over again. But so yeah, just like L. Ron Hubbard before him, Miscavige takes over this leadership role, becomes just like an abusive nightmare person. A bunch of former top executives from the church were in this documentary. One of them was Marty Rathburn. Another one was Mike Rinder, he's the one that does the series with Leah.
Okay. But not anymore, because he went back.
No, Mike Rinder still does it with her. He's the Australian guy.
Okay, because there was a guy that did a few episodes with her, and then...
Yeah, that guy was Marty Rathburn. Okay. Two different people. I know, I kind of mixed them up too.
Mark and Matt, that's why.
There we go. That's it. 2 white guys who are Scientologists. So, and this guy, Tom DeVocht, who was David Miscavige's assistant. He was a little, like, more soft-spoken. Like, he didn't seem.
Yeah.
But anyways, they describe just some of the most horrific abuse ever. There is a set of 2 double-wide trailers at Gold Base in Hemet, California, which is, like, their big secret base out in Hemet. And they have 2 double-wide trailers there that are known as the Hole. And they send... That's, like, where they send... That's the prison camp for, like, top people that they can't send to, like, the regular prison. Or maybe that's the new prison. Maybe that's the new 7th floor of the Blue Building, probably. But so these men described this musical chairs incident where David Miscavige said, we're going to play musical chairs. And there was a particular song choice. I don't remember, but, it was Queen. Is this the real life? Is this fantasy? Slide, no escape. Yeah, he, like, chose that song, Bizarro. And anyways, he made them play musical chairs, and he said that whoever lost musical chairs, so whoever didn't get a chair, was going to leave the Hole, but, like, was out of Scientology. And the Hole, just to clarify, was, like, a hellhole dump. Like, 2 double-wide trailers, no air conditioner. You're using the bathroom, like, outside. It's terrible. They're making you do hard manual labor all day. It's like a nightmare scenario. And so David Miscavige makes them play musical chairs and says whoever doesn't get a chair is you get to leave the Hole, but you're out of Scientology. And they were fighting each other. These men were beating the shit out of each other to stay in the Hole. And then at the end, David Miscavige says, oh, just kidding. You're all going to stay. Whatever. Think about what bad things you've done. Whatever fucking crazy shit he was paranoid coming up with. But so they describe this crazy scenario, and it's, you watch these men and they seem like such normal. Like if you were to see them in real life, just super normal.
But that's what all
vanilla. Yeah. Like the most normal people ever. So these are not insane people.
Well,
I mean, but like,
I get it.
But you know
but
what
like,
I mean? But people would say me and you are insane.
Up.
But people would say me and you are insane because of scenarios that we've put ourselves in, or not put ourselves in, because you know you can't put yourself in a victim scenario, but of scenarios that we've been in.
Right.
People would say, "Well, they're nuts." You know what I mean? Like, this is the thing is. Certain people can use psychological tactics and break you down over time. It's a long game. Break you down over time to where your brain is like scrambled up. If you don't catch those red flags early on and nip it in the bud, like it's a slippery slope because these people are clearly not, you know.
And they're looking for people they're looking for the hole in a person. So it's like that, because again, that's what the whole test is.
We can fill it with this.
Yeah. And then it's semi-credible people, which, again, here's the other problem with Hollywood, is we put celebrities on pedestals, and there is nothing special about celebrities. They're regular people.
It's luck of the draw.
They are just filming on camera, same way we're filming right here, just they got a whole bunch of people doing it and a PR person. Mm-hmm. And so... But it's like, because you look at like that Jason guy, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying, like, you know, I was out here, I was acting. And, you know, I wasn't in the best place in life. And, like, then you're sitting there and you realize 4 months in, it's like, well, I put all this work into this.
Exactly.
I did all this stuff. It's like, and, you know, think about, like, if you've ever worked at a job, right, that you really didn't like, but you worked so hard. I mean, I think of this one specific job I had. I wanted to impress this boss so bad. This man came in with a new exotic car every other week, literally. And I'm like trying to fight just to get a raise and prove to him, and to the point where then 2 years went by and I'm like not getting the raise, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here?
And you're doing all the work.
I could literally
and watching them reap all the benefits.
What I'm doing here for multiple people and make more money than this.
Yeah.
And luckily I was able to break that, and I had a strong support system to be like, Jesse, what are you doing? Just do this freelancing.
Right.
But there was that where we are in a country, in a world where it's like, you think, okay, the 9 to 5 and I got to work for somebody. It's easier because it's like, I don't have, because starting your own company is a stressful, right? But that breaking down of working every day, it becomes monotonous, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'm going to eat my lunch and I'm going to do this.
Well, it's this big lie too, right? It's this big lie that wealthy people have told working class people, which is, if you work really hard and you just show up to work every day and you do your best and you work hard, like, you can be super wealthy.
Yeah, if you do that to yourself, for yourself.
But it's not true. It's like dangling the carrot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a load of shit. But people believe these things because we have to believe certain things to make life a little less hard.
Well, and we believe it because with the manipulation, they pick and choose. Because again, even the job I worked at, that boss knew which people to give a little bump to then make it feel like, oh, see, look, they got it. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, you look at like the time, that's where, you know, when it comes to Tom Cruise and these people, it's like, a little fire does have to be held to them, because it's like, it's like when celebrities say like, I'm not a role model. It's like, well, you are. At a certain point, you have to be responsible for children, because, you know.
Because the thing is when you're making, especially when you're making millions of dollars, like, and you have a platform that is affording you to make millions of dollars, like, yeah, you actually do have a responsibility to not support unethical things.
And especially when you see, because like, I think what's so interesting too, like to today, right? That me finding that Streets of LA thing, he changed it. So if you guys want to, I totally recommend going down his rabbit hole. It's called Film the Robots LA. Now he has to keep changing it because Scientology was like getting all his accounts banned. And then all these people from TikTok started showing up and going live, so Scientology couldn't figure out who was doing what.
I love that so much.
Love it. But so what I thought was really interesting, because again, as someone who grew up religious, and you know what I mean, like, it's like, okay, I took the Bible seriously, and then you start decoding it in your own sense through life and stuff, and you start being like, well, like I said last week about like the blood in Christ to Jesus, it's like, to me, that's a metaphor. I'm not gonna like physically eat something and like think that cannibalism, right? So for me, it's like, well, this doesn't make sense.
You know
here,
what's funny?
right?
Sorry, side note. Aleister Crowley, who is the guy that they said L. Ron Hubbard and the other guy Jack Parsons followed his teachings, the sex magic guy.
Yeah.
I was reading into him a little bit, and one of the things that he believed, remember we talked about that, one of the things he believed was that like eating like a person's bodily fluids is like similar to like the Eucharist, and how like that's like,
well, there's that witch
and, like,
woman that's with like Lady
about...
Gaga and Beyonce, Jay-Z, that she's seen all the time.
Are you talking about Marina Abramovic?
No, not her. Rick Owens' wife?
Oh, no, Michelle Lamy. She goes to my boyfriend's gym.
I seen something of her, and I was like, ma'am, what?
I think that people just say things about her because she's very eccentric.
I don't know. I watched her talk about, like, blood, like drinking blood, and I was just like,
well, okay, it's a different conversation.
All that to
conversation
say,
for a different
right.
day.
All that to say, because that is also something, like, I would love to talk about that kind of stuff too. All that to say was today, like last Christmas, right? It was interesting to me, like, and all I say about religion is like, and even with the TikTok stuff, it's like, for me, being someone who grew up in religion, it's like I would look at like the TikTok guy and be like, this is not of God, like of anything of the basics of what God teaches, right? So then you look at like Scientology. So let's say you believe Scientology, right? Tom Cruise, whatever. And you say, you know that we know the truth and these people don't. At what point do you say, well, we're lying to the public? Because Scientology owns the one right on Hollywood Boulevard, owns this parking lot next door. And what they do is on holidays, they change that to Christian holidays to get people to come in. It's like Scientology does not believe in Christmas like that, like, or these Christian holidays.
Yeah.
And they pander to get people in, like Santa Claus, and it's like right next to L. Ron Hubbard's face, and then that's how they get you in there. You pay, you're paying to take a picture with Santa Claus. They're taking your money from that, and then they're like, hey.
It's right next to the Citizens Commission of Human Rights, and that's how they hide it, and so the people don't really know it's Scientology, because the building that area where they set up the whole Christmas thing and all that stuff is right next to that.
Interesting.
So it doesn't say Scientology.
And that's why I love, shout out to that man and people who do this, that they stood out there every single day, any kids and anything, and they're like, this is screaming, this is Scientology, this is Scientology, and it pissed them off so bad. And to watch live video footage of them being stalked by people, followed by people, like everything in this documentary, like you can watch and be like, oh, well, that happened. No, it's happening.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
To this day. Like, I don't even want to say, like, I hope nothing happens. Like, I don't want to knock on my door. But
we don't want any smoke. Listen,
we're
just talking about a documentary.
We done with this documentary after this, okay? We done. I'll do what you gotta do.
I'm like, although we could do a whole episode about fucking Danny Masterson's trial.
No, there's a lot of them. Yeah.
There's so much. Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
another thing I had in my notes was David Miscavige in The Hole made people clean bathrooms with their tongue, beat each other up, and gave people water torture. And just to clarify too, people don't just go in there for like a couple days. Like you can go in there for a couple days, but usually it's long stretches of time. There was a top executive that was in there 7 years. 7 years. They don't do any media interviews anymore, but they are recognized as a religion and therefore are tax exempt, which sucks. And then we all know the LAPD sucks.
Yeah, that was the other part, to see live
thing
on camera, again, with this guy, how the LAPD... Like, so basically what was happening with this Streets guy is he was basically outing, like, because the LAPD would be like, oh, you're causing... It's like, I can be on the street and filming. I'm not in there. I'm not doing anything. I'm in a public place. And every night, and he was like, and this man screams at the LAPD, like, he don't give zero fucks.
No, he
given.
does not.
And I love
His
it.
thing used to be film the police LA.
Yeah, he changes
Yeah,
it.
he
all
changes
the time
it all the time so they can't delete his accounts.
So, but to see the police actively showing up, and not only that, but what they do is they're so sneaky. So they'll actually then hire like homeless people. They would hire homeless people to come and antagonize the Streets guy, so that, like, almost like physically pushing him so that he does something, and then the police can book him on something.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, they're calculating.
Yeah,
like the ways that they go after people are very calculating. It's interesting.
it's scary.
It's scary. It's really, really scary.
And it's scary that, like, the Sea Org people, who are the people who are licking the
They're
floors
indentured servants.
But
they're
like,
literally indentured servants. They work for, like, cents an hour.
Yeah, and you can see them. Literally, anytime you walk into a Scientology building, those are them. They get on a shuttle at the end of their shift. After their 30-hour shift or whatever it is, and then they go to this hostel-type place, which is the back street of that building, and then they get them on a shuttle, drive around a block so that people don't know. But all that to say, then they started showing up to different events, the Scientology events, and a lot of, like, just like you said, how some people are just normal people. Like, they look like normal, everyday people. And I remember there was one where they were, like, asking this old man as he was leaving, oh, hey, and like they were talking to me, and they were like, oh, so what were you guys doing there, and all this stuff, and he was like, oh, he was very old, but and as he was about to answer, you see these people come up behind him, and they're like, hey, come on with us, come on over back with us, so that he wouldn't talk to them. And it's just like, I don't know, to an average eye, that should be concerning and alarming. Like,
I just looked up when was Shelley Miscavige last seen. 2007. Yeah, but the LAPD has said that she's alive and well and fine. Okay. But this woman has not been seen in public since 2007. That's almost 20 years.
Should we do merch? Hashtag Where's Shelly?
No, literally, no. Leah Remini, that was like her whole thing. It's like why
really?
she went on like a fucking crusade and still no answers. The LAPD said nope. We closed our missing in persons investigation. Mind you, also, David Miscavige, the FBI was investigating him for like human trafficking.
I mean,
Human
that's what
trafficking, child labor, and all this stuff. And you want to know why it got dropped? Because all of the things they were being accused of are protected for religions. And I have such a huge problem with that. That like people can work for free because it's like a religion.
Yeah.
Because that is a thing that, you know, in churches, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
That people can do fucking labor or whatever. And because they live there and because it's religious, and that is okay. Or like child
so
labor laws or
sad.
other things. Like,
Again, like when I know you're not religious, but like when I think about like, and I understand the stigma that religion has. And then when I think about what I grew up in, it's like, that is the pure part of religion. Like what I grew up in, genuinely. Like it was like, I mean, my priest is allowed to have a family, married and all that. He didn't really have a nice car. He had a Mercedes, but it was like an old beat down Mercedes. He wasn't out here flossing,
Yeah.
you know? And then it's like, you know, my mom every Sunday would go and be a part of the choir. She wasn't getting paid for that, but she liked doing it. Then it's like the altar guys, like nobody's there every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like we want to do this because as a community on Sundays, we all want to be able to come together and make sure we can have this service to pray. And it's such a like innocent thing where then you look at this shit and it's like these people use something that is supposed to be protected and pure,
Yeah.
and you're tainting it on such a disgusting level. Like,
yeah.
like I know my church, like, yeah, there are people that, you know, probably would come in and clean, but they pay for a cleaner to come in. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're like, okay, for $5,
Right.
lick the floor. Like,
Right.
it's just, and to me, that's where our government is just like, why, how can there be such a blind eye? But then you're out here like.
But it's because of religion.
Yeah.
It really is because of religion. Because
Yeah, but it's like you can't tell me. That's such a like a farce, because it's like you can look at, again, the church that I grew up in, like, and what they do in comparison to this. You can see
Yeah.
that people are not being paid correctly.
No, of
you
course.
can see that people are being treated like the fact that there's a hole.
But the thing is the law doesn't allow for nuance. The law is black and white. So when the law says religious organizations are exempt from XYZ whatever, and then the IRS is forced into recognizing an organization as a religion, it's exempt. And other, you know, branches of religion, of course, like you had a great experience, but there's so many instances of
No, because I even look at like the Catholic Church, and it's like I can imagine on a bigger scale
of
what's
course,
actually
like
going on.
who the fuck
behind.
knows, but it's a slippery slope, because when you give these exemptions for religious organizations and people can just make up fucking religions, then people can just make up shit to skirt the law, just like people make apps and pretend that they're television channels
Yeah.
and skirt the law. Because they don't have to follow any of the rules and regulations that you would have to follow. People find these loopholes.
Yeah.
So that is the issue with like our legal system.
And it's similar to like why the government doesn't do certain things, like how we talked about the TikTok thing. Like it's hard to legally say, oh, these people are being manipulated, because then at what point do we look even deeper? You know what I really would love for us to do? I'm going to send you a YouTube video, and then maybe we can kind of pick apart where we can go down that rabbit hole. But how the CIA used basically developed pornography as a weapon. Like that was originally like like a psychological weapon, and then obviously people got into it as different avenues and stuff like that. But originally, it was created by a psychologist. It was originally created by a psychologist. The idea of pornography to test how to control, like manipulate young boys' minds. That was a thing, young children's minds. And then the CIA got a hold of it, and I would have to go deeper into the rabbit hole for that. But it just goes to show, like, there are these things that it's just like a lot of the stuff our government won't do is because they're probably doing it to us on a larger scale. Like, you know what I mean? When I think of Hollywood, when I think of what it is, like the fact that the Pentagon made Apollo 13. That's weird. Like, why is the government?
You said that's weird.
It is like that. And when you look at like some of
Wait, did they really?
Yes, the Pentagon. It has, I forget how many $1 million a year. They have a sector where they are allowed to create certain movies, and there's a list of them, and they're all movies that are kind of movies that like what was it, The End of Days or whatever that one was. Oh my God, what was that? It came out in like 2000 when everyone thought the end of the world was going to happen. But like the Pentagon, that whatever this sector is in the Pentagon was who funded these movies. And you're
the
like,
most popular movies you may not know were backed by the Pentagon.
Yeah.
For more than 100 years, the U.S. Department of Defense has collaborated with Hollywood in creative film production, coordinating assets for movie studios, and providing story input for all matters military. The long-standing relationship between Hollywood and the Pentagon has given the U.S. military significance over some of the biggest blockbusters in film history. To determine the most popular American movies supported by the Department of Defense, we reviewed the Freedom of Information Act request, academic studies, and other sources documenting Pentagon support for various American films, as well as box office data. Okay, gotcha. Just give me the information. Basically, there's a list here of like all the movies that the Pentagon has backed.
And some of them are like very well known, like most of them.
But it sounds like basically, I don't think they financially contribute.
Yeah, it's like a certain, I can't remember. It's like something $1 million. I want to say it's like $7 million that they have allotted for funding movies. Like,
oh yeah, via production assistance or script input.
Yeah, so basically like one of the conspiracy things is that we actually didn't land on the moon when we landed on the moon, right? And
yeah.
Right, so whatever. So the idea of like what someone was saying is that the Pentagon has some sort of input in films to kind of keep their storyline of what they want people to kind of.
Well, yeah, it's like propaganda.
Yeah.
So like there's this whole thing of like, especially in the U.S.
You said propaganda?
Yeah. Oh. There's a whole thing in the U.S. of like all these cop shows that are designed to make the public feel positively about police, even though police are literally like the biggest gang in the United States. They are responsible for so much organized crime. That's a whole topic for a different day. These are movies that the Pentagon backed. American Sniper, no surprise there. Air Force One, Tomorrow Never Dies, Deep Impact, Apollo 13, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 1.
But those ones are actually interesting because
I don't watch those.
No, not interesting. But it was interesting why. I'll send you the link that.
Find it for me.
Because why they
all the James Bond movies basically: GoldenEye, I Am Legend, Suicide Squad, Captain America: Winter Soldier, True Lies, Top Gun. That's funny. Transformers, all the Transformers movies, Twister, Armageddon. Oh, not Indiana Jones. Captain Marvel. All these Marvel movies.
No, but
Captain America Civil War. What would the Pentagon
care about Marvel movies? Like,
yeah, I think it's all. Yeah, I mean, it's propaganda. It's like they want us to feel. They want to breed nationalism. Yeah. They want people to like love the United States. They want people to love our military. And so these fictional things, of course, like
feed that.
these ideas. They shape our worldview completely. You know what I mean? So, and especially Marvel movies. I mean, if you look at a lot of these movies, they're for kids. They're not really, but that's who is watching. Like, I know a lot of adults love Marvel too, but little kids love Marvel. That's
pandering to children.
Yeah, and Transformers. Little kids love Transformers too. Yeah, that's interesting.
And all of them are like...
But yeah, Copaganda is like Law & Order SVU.
Okay.
Like, we love, like, the cops on Law & Order SVU, but, like, that's not reality.
Yep.
Like, when you go to the police station, I'm like, I'm a sexual assault victim. They're like, go die in a fire. We don't care.
Yeah. Good luck.
Pretty much.
No, I mean, when I was in a bad situation, the cops showed up. They basically were like, well, you should go stay at a friend's house. I'm like...
They don't care.
This is my apartment.
They don't care.
And they're like, yeah, well, you know what this lighter's used for? I'm like, no, well, he's probably doing that. So if you think he's doing that, hello, what?
Yeah. One of the things, I mean, obviously I went through my own things with LAPD specifically. And with, like, me, some of the work I'm doing now and, like, helping people, I've had to deal with LAPD, and it's not positive. But one of the things I, like, really appreciated about the Netflix documentary we talked about last time, the 7M called Dancing for the Devil, was how they really showcased how much LAPD is inequipped to support sexual assault victims or sex crimes at all. I mean, they literally said to that woman, well, we don't arrest people. We need to have more than one person to arrest someone for sexual assault. Have you ever heard of such? That was the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. And then even still, they got multiple people and still didn't arrest the man. He's still not arrested. No. Which is, horrific. But, also, update from my girl Without a Crystal Ball on the 7M cult was that allegedly, according to people affiliated with the cult, ex-members of the cult, Miranda was trying to leave and was basically convinced by the man that she was with not to leave.
Oh.
A while ago, not now. And I guess somebody got in contact with B-Dash's ex-wife and said that... Ex-wife, who he was with when he was in the other cult that he was in. Oh. Remember that? Yep. Yeah. With that guy, Tight Eyes. And his ex-wife said that when she tried to leave, that it was like a similar situation where he was like not allowing it to happen and was very like, no, we're staying. And he did not leave until that guy, Tight Eyes, left. And so a lot of people are saying...
So he definitely then did prey upon this girl.
Yes.
To get her into it.
Yeah. It would appear so, unfortunately.
Crazy.
Very crazy.
I would love to give homework to y'all. Just a fun project, actually, because I'm confused now that we watched this and we talked about it. I'm curious. And I don't see a free place for you guys to stream it, unfortunately. So I understand if you can't. But if you can, it's on Apple TV. The Arrangement.
Oh, yeah, I want to see this.
2 seasons. So on YouTube, it's $1.99, Apple TV $1.99, Amazon $1.99. I totally recommend it. It was very entertaining. I watched both seasons of it. I would love to know if you guys can watch that and tell me who you think the girl is. Because now I'm thinking, what if it actually was Katie Holmes that the story was about? Or do you think it might be a hybrid of all 3 of those women's stories? Or could it be Nicole Kidman's way of being able to tell a portion of her story without it being associated with her? It, like, watching that now, thinking, because again, when I watched it at the time, I just thought it was a show, and now then when I started hearing about Scientology, I was like, oh, was that Tom Cruise? And then watching Going Clear, it's 1,000,000% that.
Oh my God. One thing too, before we end, that we did not talk about, which I think is super important. If you've made it to the end of the episode, congratulations. But is how the Sea Org was formed. So the Sea Org was formed because L. Ron Hubbard was like wanted in the U.S. for tax evasion, and because they were like looking into Scientology and being like, what the fuck is this? So he's like, the FBI is watching him. Some other people can relate.
The call is coming from inside of the house.
I mean, what? What are we even talking about? Anyways, so the the feds are watching, and the feds are watching L. Ron Hubbard, right?
L. Ron
and
Hubbard.
so then he's like wanted in like multiple countries. Actually, I'm so excited that I remembered this before we ended because I would have been so disappointed if I didn't go off on my rant about the Sea Org. So L. Ron Hubbard is wanted in multiple countries for being like a menace to fucking society, right? So what does he do? He buys a fleet of ships.
Oh.
This is how the Sea Org was created.
Psychopath.
He buys a fleet of ships.
Don't mind me. I'm just gonna eat these chickens.
Oh my god, yes, I made wings, everyone. He buys a fleet of ships, makes himself the captain, of course.
Of course.
Names it the Sea Org, Sea Organization. Sends out these like invitations to like the most loyal Scientologists, like basically the people who are the most desperate, being like, oh my god, you've been invited to this prestigious Sea Organization. Meet me on the ship. And then they get there and it's literally hard manual labor, like scrubbing decks and fucking like tending to his ships. And the whole purpose of it was because this man could not live anywhere. He was wanted everywhere.
And you know, and maybe this is a great segue to next week. Yachts.
Oh my god, to yachting. We're finally going to talk about it for sure. So this man was wanted everywhere and literally used Scientology to get these people to do like indentured slave labor so that he could like travel by sea. And then they were banned from like every port because they were going from port to port, like being insane. So that's how the whole thing started. Like, this man is so crazy. His teeth were rotting out of his head.
No. The
Bad.
teeth?
The teeth were, they stunk. Like, I don't know how. When she's like, we would sit on the deck and listen to him, like, look up at the stars and talk about all these things. And I'm like, how did you get over the breath from his fucking black teeth rotting out of his gums?
The teeth?
The teeth?
Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Tales from the Crypt Keeper looking like Gargamel from the Smurfs. Like, this man,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to be, because you look at like Tom Cruise, such a beautiful man, right?
Great teeth.
Great teeth, which are probably fake.
David Miscavige has great teeth too.
They're probably
Scary,
fake.
scary freak.
Probably
but...
fake, and also look like he can rip his face off. Like, I just have a
Beetlejuice
problem.
style?
Yeah, I just have a problem with. They all kind of look similar. Like, there's always like something you can kind of piece together with all of these people that you're like, are you God?
Yeah, it's a little dead behind the eyes. Look.
Yeah, but yeah, the teeth thing was.
Yeah, his teeth were real scary. Next week we're going to talk about yachting for real.
Yeah.
Unless we find another documentary that we want to talk about.
Well, I am
instead.
going to send you the psychological porn thing, because that was a crazy. Because I had a whole long conversation with my homegirl today about.
So like, okay, so wait, so they invented like porn.
So basically, the
like,
idea of porn was showing young children. The idea was, and I can't remember, it wasn't Sigmund Freud, but like it's old, like it's like old shit.
Well, no, porn's been around since like
Yeah.
the dawn of time, because
But
like
it was,
people would
like-
take like cheesecake photographs or like naked pictures.
Yeah,
like
but
Betty
the
Page,
idea
and
of like showing this, like basically testing out at what age does it start changing a child's mind towards being malleable, because
oh, so they like did tests on kids.
Yeah.
Like, okay, gotcha.
to use it as a weapon. I'll send you the thing, and it's really fascinating.
Interesting.
And scary, especially in this day and age where like you start noticing certain kinks are being pushed,
Yeah.
like family things, abuse, and stuff like that, which I get to a certain point, but it's also like, why is this one like being promoted heavily right
Yeah.
now?
I think a lot of the reason why we see more of porn on like social media, for example, is because now that people are working for themselves as opposed to like, you know what I mean? Like going to like a studio and filming a porn movie, which was then sold in a porn store, or you could like buy it on pay-per-view. It's like now because of OnlyFans, it's really like the internet and these apps.
But what I'm talking about, like, I get the OnlyFans stuff because those are just people. They're not like acting out the stuff that I'm talking about. Like,
do you mean like kinks are being more mainstream, like in regular media?
yes.
Oh, okay. I see.
Like, I really think there is going to be...
Like, you think, like, there's, like, subliminal stuff going on in regular media? Yes, I genuinely
feel like after watching what I watched, and I don't want to speak too much on it, I want to rewatch it, because I just came across it, and I was like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. So I want to rewatch it with the idea of being able to speak on it. But where they were saying was, like, not being surprised that if in a few years they start... like, the world starts normalizing pedophilia. Like, to a point where not, you know, it may not be like 7-year-olds, but like the number getting...
See, I feel like we have had, like, as a society, I feel like we've had a total opposite. Because
you haven't heard about the LGBTQIA now? Now they want to add... I forget what it's called.
I've read this, but that's like some niche bullshit. Like, that's not like a big group of people wanting to add...
No, but there is a community that is starting... No,
yeah, but that's like a fringe group of people.
Yes,
but that's like
the fact that there's even now a community separating themselves and saying, like, trying to empathize with, like, create... I forget what it's called. Like, basically they were saying, like, there's two different things. There's pedophile, and then there's whatever this other P word is. And... A true pedophile would never harm a child because they love that child.
But these things is that pedophiles have done this shit forever. Like, Allen Ginsberg, who was a famous poet from the 60s, for example, he wrote Howl. He's like a well-known and still well-respected poet, was a member of a group called the Man-Boy Love Association, NAMBLA, the National Association for Man-Boy Love. And this shit was in the 60s. And this was literally talking about, it was specifically gay men, pedophiles, not gay men. Right. They were pedophiles. But it was pedophiles saying, it's different with men, and like using these examples of like in ancient Greece, like men, that whole thing with like how there were like young gay lovers.
That's what they're saying now. Is like, well, back in the day, if you were 14
but what I'm saying is these people have always been around.
Right,
it's just, and these organizations have always existed. Like, the Man Boy Love Association has a website. Like, ew, I don't want to even like put that on there, but like, you know what I mean? Like, these groups exist. Mm-hmm. They've always been. It's just that now, because of the internet, it's more accessible. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. It's not that it's more prevalent in society per se, but it is, the information is more accessible, which definitely can be considered harmful, of course, but
because it creates easier access for people to...
Yes, but I don't think it's that societally, like, we've changed as a society.
No.
But because these fucking weirdo fringe groups have always existed.
But I just, it makes me nervous that they would even try to fight even harder to be a part of any... Like, my biggest thing is within the gay community is the whole like dad and son porn and stuff like that. It's like the amount that I had to fight, like, or not even fight, but like fear of like not being able to be myself working at the Boys and Girls Club and stuff, because back in the 90s 2000s people associated gay people with pedophiles. Like, that is just like, as a gay man or anyone in the LGBT community, we should be slamming the hammer down for anything to try and be in association with that,
Yeah, I mean, incest porn is, I find it problematic. But I will tell you this. I have a friend who was... Well, I have multiple friends who are sex workers. But I have a friend who was a phone sex operator. And she said the number one most requested thing from men, from straight heterosexual men...
I believe it.
...was that they wanted her to pretend to be their daughter.
Yeah.
And specifically be like, this is my daughter's name. This is how old she is. I want you to say this. That like is a kink.
No, Timbaland. That's why
And
I
it's
can't fuck with Timbaland.
But
no more.
yeah, but it's a kink outside of the gay community that's like its own kink, just like pedophilia. Like I said to you, there's this association of men who say, "Oh, gay men, it's different."
They
in this,
put it on gay
they're
people
not gay
so
men.
that it's not.
It's not
yeah,
gay
yeah.
men.
No.
They're pedophiles.
I know, but they put it on gay people.
But it's the same thing in the heterosexual community. It's, you know what I mean? People that are going to say that about gay people are going to say negative things about gay people regardless.
Right.
They already have it in their mind that because if you were a person who wasn't homophobic and you heard that, you would not immediately jump to gay people are bad.
Yeah.
You would say, oh, well, heterosexual people do this. It's a kink in the heterosexual community as well. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
No, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I do think, though, that, like, should kinks be out in the open and accessible? No. Like, there needs to be more regulation as far as, like, what is accessible to kids on the internet.
I was watching something, too. It was, like, on YouTube. And it was, like, that series that you put me on about the guy that interviews, like, prostitutes and...
Soft white underbelly.
So it wasn't that, but it was something similar. And it was these two women, and they basically were saying, like, you know, yeah, I do this stuff, but, like, there's certain stuff, like, if, like, she mentioned something similar, like, a guy would keep driving down the street with his son, and she was like, we're not doing this. Like,
yeah.
She was like, you know what I mean? Because she was like, it is my responsibility. She was, that, and I'm, like, looking at her like, okay, girl. But whatever, like, okay, at least there, you do have some sort of moral compass, like, no, there's children. Like, when it's school times, like, we're not going to be anywhere. We don't want the kids seeing us out on the street.
Of
like,
course.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, look, if a man's cheating on his wife, that's on him. But when you are involving children and stuff like that, and I think that that is, again, a social, you know, awareness that it's like, you calling someone, wanting them to pretend that you're a daughter or something like that, like, so that is a mental health thing that you need to figure out.
Yeah, like, you don't need to see a sex worker. Like, you really need to see, like, a therapist. You need to see a psychologist. You need to go to a hospital. If we're being real.
We need to put you in the hole, okay?
But it's, like, the most popular kink.
No, I know.
If you watch porn.
I do. No, I know.
And same. If you go to any porn site, like, and you look at, like, because I like to look like trending, you know what I mean? It's always
the one too is now with like
like siblings, cousins,
and it's crazy because it's like there's a lot of gay men who are touched by their older cousin or things like that, and it's like that's triggering. You know what I'm saying? Like, to a certain point, because I do know people who have had that and been like, I didn't know it was wrong. No, I know.
Is like triggers.
No, I know.
So it's like that's part of it.
When I was in my situation, that's what reassured, like, what was actually happening. You know what I mean? It was like, look, if y'all want to do it, do it. I am not triggered by this to be attracted to this. Yeah. So I want to remove myself. But, like, and again, I get some kinks. I get it. I'm a little kinky myself. But, like, there's boundaries. And there's certain things that it's just, like, why are we doing this? Like, that I just, you know what I mean? Like, but again,
that's the thing. You have to ask the why, right? Because, like, I've thought a lot about kink and all that, you know what I mean? And considering my situation. Because my situation was, I was in a abusive relationship with a person who was sexually violent. And that person's track record went on to continue to be sexually violent. When I got in that relationship and I was very young, I didn't understand, like, what having that type of sex really meant or, like, what. And that's really the thing is, like, I'm never going to kink shame people, and people like different things, and that's great and whatever. But just consider where that is coming from. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's the same for everybody as it is for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For some people, might not be that they're triggered. They just, whatever. I don't know what this, everybody's different. So I'm not implying that, like, all kinks are, like, because of trauma or whatever. But I do think it's worth examining. Yeah. When you have a proclivity to certain sexual things that could be harmful, in not, if you're not in a good scenario, just examine that
and examine at certain ages and stuff like that. Because I think, like, obviously you're a teenager, like you you don't understand certain things.
You're
your sex drive
experimenting.
is
You're
different,
learning
experimenting.
about sex. Yeah.
But then when it's like when you're in your like 30s and you know what I mean 40s and like whatever, and you're still continuing certain things. Like for me, there was a period, and I am glad that I was able to openly say it to a group of friends at a certain point, of men, and they, because I said it, I thought I was going to be the only one, but I was addicted to porn at a certain point where it really was harmful to my life.
Yeah. And that's really the thing with addiction. That's where something slips into addiction as opposed to just like a habit or like something.
Right.
Is where it starts negatively affecting your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Whether that's your job, whether it's your interpersonal relationships, whatever it may be. That's where it devolves into something else.
And that addiction came from, I was at the lowest point of my life and I was trying to fill something.
Yeah.
And it was a quick fix of happiness.
It's a dopamine shot.
And then you go in this lazy thing. Then you're like, oh, let me do it again. And then you find yourself like, well, shit, my whole day was ruined because I was in this sloth mind.
Yeah.
Trying to chase this fix. Yeah, I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't doing anything like that. But that's what people do when they're on drugs. You're chasing the next high. And porn releases a certain thing within you, for like sex does, right? And so where all this stemmed from was I was talking to my homegirl, and she was basically saying, like, you know, we were talking about kinks and stuff like that, and how I was like, well, it's funny, like a lot of straight men I'm seeing really like being played, like having their butthole played with. And she was saying, because she's black, she was saying how like black women should be more open and not shame people. And, you know, maybe because that's where a lot of the guys switch to going to gay men because they feel shamed, their girl won't do it or whatever. And I said, I don't think it's that. Like, I think, you know, if you think about it, like, as a gay man, it's a lot to bottom. Like, you takes time to prep. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Prep,
like,
honey.
Is exhausting. So, you know, I said, well, if the guy's looking for this every night from a girl, like, that's...
And by the way, not all bottoms have to prep, okay? If you want to paint, paint.
And, yeah, that is your fetish, baby. Enjoy yourself. But, you know what I'm saying? And, again, you know... Y'all do you. But anyways, for me...
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. For me, that's a process. And again, a lot of porn, I think, I notice for gay men, it like puts this idea of like, oh, you could be eating at a restaurant, see a guy across the way and wink at him, go in the bathroom and get fucked by him. It's like, that's not going to be as beautiful as an experience as you're watching on this video, because those men are planning this.
Oh yeah,
hours,
they're douche.
Probably haven't eaten for 2 days.
Oh, honey.
Fiber pills all
Porn?
day.
What is that?
Right. So it's like, you know, a false narrative that if a kid sees that and doesn't have that understanding, then he's thinking, oh, I can just go in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. So, but all that to say, I think there's levels, and it's like when you realize like, okay, this guy's like, you know, if you, with straight women, that's where I was going with all this. I don't think there's anything wrong to shame some guy if he wants his booty hole licked. You know what I'm saying? But like, he also has to look at it like, you can't expect her to want to do that every day. And if you want to do that every day, look within yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like...
You think butt stuff is a little gay? Like if straight guys do butt stuff? I think if...
No, I don't. That's what me and her conversation was. I don't think it's anything
I'm
wrong.
like, I don't think it's gay.
No, I don't. But I think it's excessive. I mean, I don't... you have to clean and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
No, yeah, straight men...
aren't...
Okay, yes.
So it's a process. So
yes.
to expect that from your woman
straight,
every night, like, lick my booty hole or whatever, it's like...
Straight men are not equipped to bottom. Yeah, is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I
like,
agree.
Yeah, once in a while, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that should be shamed or like, oh, you're gay or something like that. And that couldn't be, because what I was trying to say to her is, there are gay men, and then there are gay men who I know are not gay, but feel like they are because they've been shamed by women.
What?
I have dated guys that I'm like, you're not gay, bro. Like, you're not. Like, it's hard.
Well, actually, yeah. No, you know what? I actually do.
They're toxic
believe
relationships.
That because I have met women like that. I have definitely met women, and especially like my friends who are gay and date women. I've met women who are not gay and want to be gay.
Yeah,
because they are not having good experiences with men. Yeah. So yeah.
So similar thing. It's like, okay, bro. Like, if you know, have this craving for something up your butt every night, doesn't mean you're gay, but like don't expect your girl to
I
provide
see
that.
what
Like
you're
get a
saying.
dildo and go in the other room and do whatever if you need it. But then
But
if you need
they-
it every day, then question why do you need that every day? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kind of a thing. And I think that's where it was kind of with the whole kink shame. And I would love to have this whole conversation, like a deeper conversation.
Yeah, I'm
on
like,
that.
I love how the episode started with Scientology. I'm like,
And
should this go on the Patreon? I'm like, this might be even if want.
Yes, actually. And it's our Pride episode, guys.
It's our Pride episode. Happy Pride.
I'm dead.
No, yeah, I have a lot of feelings about butt stuff with men. I think that guys, certain straight men are way too in their head about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and certain women are weird about it too. Like, men have a prostate in their butthole. This is what I try to explain to like men who are very like, no, I don't want anything in my butt. I'm
It's like try it one time.
you have a prostate. You have a G-spot in your butt, okay? If you told me I had a G-spot in my nose, in my ear, I don't care where the hole is, I'm going in and I'm going to go hard. And I'm going to go hard. Like, what do you mean you have a G-spot in your butt and you are not even curious about the G-spot in your butt? And then obviously there's men who like love it.
No,
Good
I've
for
been
them.
massaged by, it was like a tantric massage. This
Uh-huh.
man did not go in my butt at all. But the way he rubbed on the gooch,
The perineum.
or whatever that is,
The perineum,
and pushed,
yeah.
and it hit that spot,
Yep, you got to push it.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
the-
if your man doesn't like butt stuff, that is the key.
Great entryway to get him into it.
Get that.
And it's
fucking-
also, again, and now the other part with it is I just posted this thing because last week when we didn't do one, I was like, all right, well, I got to be consistent. And I talked about, like, for me, it's like I would always get called a prude. And it's like, because I didn't want to go to an orgy or stuff like that. And it's like, that's just like you liking carrots and me being like, oh, I'm not a carrot person. Like, personally, like, I don't like hot yoga because I think about the bacteria and things like that. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, for me, it's like, I know I don't like going in public swimming pools because people don't wipe their ass correctly. So, like, I'm not mad at
chlorine
girls.
kills everything.
The
honey.
girl, not mentally, it does not for me. So I'm not mad at a girl being like, okay, and you both creating a safe space for you guys to explore that, but don't be out here being like, all right, I'm ready, because it's like, I've met some gay men where it's like, sir, what do you think's going on? Because you ain't in no way prepped, ready, and we did not discuss this. Like,
No, that's crazy.
you
Yeah.
know, and there's just so many levels to it, you know, and it's like, again, another conversation for another day.
Oh my god, another conversation for another day. But yeah, I don't.
But yeah,
I'm like,
Scientology sucks.
Scientology sucks.
And wouldn't be
Scientology sucks.
surprised
A
if,
prostate's in your butt.
and Tom Cruise is probably getting up the butt from Mascavash or whatever the fuck.
Oh my god, you know what like hurts my heart for John Travolta though is that like, and I hate to like say this about somebody who's not out because I know that that's like unethical or whatever, but it's like we all kind of like know John Travolta's gay. Like it's sort of a, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so also so funny, I saw an article, like I didn't read it. I just saw like the headline. It was like a week ago. And it said some guy at like a gym in West Hollywood got approached by John Travolta. And this fucking loser like went and like ran to the press about it. And like not even a week later, like days later, it was like, you know, in your Apple News where it's like all the little headlines. A headline popped up of John Travolta goes on a date with so-and-so. Like
A
his
female.
first, yes. And I was like, that is the most PR shit.
Well, I'm interested to see with the Justin Timberlake thing because they found Truvada and poppers in his
No,
system.
they didn't. That was
Wait, really?
No, that was Pooh Crave that posted that.
What?
They did not find Truvada and poppers in his system. That was fake.
Was that
It
fake?
was fake. It was a fake tweet.
Wait, I'm dead. Wait,
No.
Justin Tim.
It was no, babe. I'll show you. It was Pooh Crave. Do you not know who Pooh Crave is?
No.
Pooh Crave is
They need to be arrested because if y'all spilling false information like that.
Pooh Crave. It looks like Pop Crave, but it's not.
Oh, I thought it was.
Poo Crave. Yeah, it's fake. They did not find Truvada in Justin Timberlake's system. I will tell you, though, I did see a real article today that his wife is fucking pissed. She's mad. No Truvada, though, baby.
Okay. Well, then good.
I wish. That would have been way more fun. Happy Pride. But no. No, I'm dead. Hold on.
Okay. All right. I just saw it. I did. I went to it back. Okay.
It's Poo Crave.
Okay, because
Oh
I
my
thought
God,
it
I'm
was a legit
crying.
site. I was like,
No.
I'm like, why is no one talking about this?
You
I'm
need
like-
to vet. You need to send me. No, it was Poo Crave, babe.
I was like, the fact no one has mentioned, like, no one cares that he had Truvada in his
Oh,
system,
my
like, that is with poppers, like, and
No
Molly.
one cares. Like what? Oh my
And
God.
then I was like, well, Juneteenth, like, no one wanted to make it about wipers. I'm like, okay. Like, but okay, it's the day after. Like, can we get back to, is Justin Timberlake getting it up?
Wait,
the
Loki though, I hate Justin Timberlake, but if he was from,
If that's how he's getting
no,
down.
I would feel like I don't like Justin Timberlake at all. Fuck him forever. For Britney and Janet. However,
and Jessica Biel, because I've heard some stories.
Oh really?
Yeah, not like almost like not the best relationship, kind of a beard relationship, not in any gay way, but
Well,
like,
I know he cheated because there were like pictures of him on set with that girl, whatever. But so, I hate Justin Timberlake. But if he truly had poppers and Truvada,
you like him a little
if
bit.
he truly
Cool
had
points.
poppers and
Okay.
Truvada in his system, I'd have no choice but to stand.
Going to the concert.
Period. I will tell you how amazing it is to me. Like, I remember when I was growing up, right? Like, there was a resurgence of New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yes,
this?
I do.
It was like when I was in like middle school.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was from Massachusetts, so it was probably more where we were from.
Oh yeah, I
'Cause
remember
they're from
my
there.
homegirl Kim Harvey. She had the cutout posters.
Period. So, New Kids on the Block, I'm sure most of our viewers don't even know about that.
They were like the first in sync.
They're the first boy band,
Yeah.
and they were from Boston, legends. And they had a resurgence, very similar to what NSYNC and Backstreet Boys are doing now, in the early 2000s, where they came back and, like, got that nostalgia factor. And I remember back then, like, seeing these, like, grown women, like, fanning out at New Kids on the Block concerts and being like, that is so fucking embarrassing. And now I'm seeing people do that with like Justin Timberlake and NSYNC.
No, I saw that. I know. I feel
Like
like I know
fanning
what video
out.
I feel like I know what video you're talking about because I saw one.
No,
today
I've
that
seen a
was like-
few. This is not directed at a specific person. I've seen like a few grown women like fanning the fuck out over NSYNC and Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, I don't. God bless them. You know what I mean? But
Bless.
hey, they were a
They
portion
still
of our
sound good.
childhood.
They definitely were. I loved NSYNC
I'll still
when
you know
I
what
was
mean?
in middle school.
No, I went to Venice Beach Saturday, and I don't know how it randomly came on my playlist. It was all hip hop, and then all of a sudden, it was NSYNC's. What was the first song?
It's 10.
No.
No, that was
You're all
Backstreet
I
Boys, right?
ever
Wanted.
And I was like, and me and my homegirl were in the car. We were like, "Oh, we gonna keep this on? Like,
I Want You Back.
Jamming. I want you.
Oh.
Burn.
You know what? I'm a fucking poser and a hypocrite because you want to know what I'm gonna do
What?
on my drive home tonight?
Listen to that.
Listen to NSYNC.
Yeah, no, that first album.
I'm going to
iconic.
take a break from listening to Charlie XCX to listen to NSYNC on the way home.
Period.
Justin Timberlake's still a loser though. Fuck
He
that.
is, but you know what I mean? That at least when listening to
Jabroni.
NSYNC, you're giving to the other guys too.
Oh yeah, I have no problem with any of them. They can all live long and prosper, especially Lance Bass.
Period.
Happy Pride.
Sorry, Justin. Should have had that Truvada in your
Should have the
system.
Truvada. Should have those
I'm
poppers.
fucking dead.
Should have that enema.
All that to say, guys, be safe out here.
Oh, let's say Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Ask why you're doing stuff, and don't go to anything having to do with Scientology.
Join Scientology.
And recommendations are Feeling Good book and Lie Spotting. This one's a really fun one.
And The Arrangement.
And so if you want TV shows, The Arrangement, let me know who you think, which female love interest of Tom Cruise you think that is about.
Oh, and by the way, We should have said this at the beginning.
And Lie to Me, which you can stream on Hulu for free. Amazing show.
By the way, which we should have said this at the beginning, Going Clear, the Scientology documentary that we referenced, if you want to watch it, is on HBO Max and Tubi for free. And
the book.
There's a book called Going Clear by Lawrence Wright. And then if you want to watch anything else about Scientology, there is another documentary called there's Leah Remini's show. And then there's another documentary called My Scientology Movie, which was directed by John Dower. And it is on Hulu.
Boom. Well, all right. Guys got a lot of work, so.
Do your homework. See
Till
you next week.
Bye.
I will come back guns blazing.